Welcome back to the Original Copy Podcast. If you haven't seen our previous episodes, go check them out now. What's going on?
You know, nothing much. Just another joyous week. It has only been like less than 30 days still of new administration, so it's cool. Just keeping updated on X and just seeing stuff every single day. If you guys want to follow us, just look on the screen. Our handle is going to be on the screen. But something I want to talk about, just getting into stuff. I mean,
let's jump in.
There's a lot of, a lot of the confirmations are happening. A lot of conspiracy theories are starting to come to the table. Stuff that people haven't talked about in decades is coming back.
It's exciting.
People are more willing to talk about stuff. And I was in Rogan's podcast. I think it was like a clip of one of his podcasts on YouTube or something. Mm-hmm. And he was saying how like COVID, was a giant money grab. And it started this conversation in my head of like why was it so influential? Because it was pretty random, right? It was out of nowhere. And then I figured out what I think is the reason why COVID was so successful in casting fear, casting doubt, and everything. And it was when I went to a 4-way stop by where I live. There's a 4-way stop, so everyone has to come to a stop.
I think I know what stop you're talking about.
Yeah, everyone has to come to this stop. And I am very like, come on, everybody, like, let's move. Like, It's your turn. Like, I wish I could go stand in the middle of that thing and be like, it's you. Like people have to realize, like, you can't be distracted when you're driving. You need to pay attention because efficiency is key. Right. It's like if everyone's paying attention, we can all get to where we want to go to, and then there won't be traffic because that's how traffic starts, is people are distracted. Or so I thought. And I mean, it was today or yesterday. Well, let's say it was today. I saw 3 people not want to make a decision and go. And
all at the same time?
Yeah. And they were waiting for someone to make a decision next to them. Because it wasn't just like a one-way. It wasn't just like a one lane. It was like 2 lanes could go at the same time. 2 lanes could go at the same time. So it was like this person waited until the person next to them went, so that way they didn't have to make the decision. Yeah. And so it happened, and I like sat there and watched it for like 3 rotations, and I was like, clearly, like when I get up there, I instantly figure out, okay, when is it my turn? And then I go. Right. And these people wouldn't. So it started making me realize, like, people don't want to make a decision in life. They just do what other people do next to them, and they just follow that.
It's very true.
And it's
it's a good analogy for it.
Because it's too intimidating, because they don't want to get honked at. They don't want to get in a car accident, but they're also so distracted that it just makes sense. In that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, like these people don't want to make a decision. They would rather somebody else make the decision and them just follow it and be like, okay, cool, because it's less stress on them. So I tied that back in. As soon as I had that thought, when I was seeing that happen at the 4-way stop, I was like, oh my gosh, that's what happened with COVID. Yeah. Is they literally said, I'm not going to do any research. I'm not going to be an adult and make my own decision and do what I want to do. I don't want to drive when I want to drive. It's like, oh, well, this person is going, so I'm just going to go along with it. And then this herd mentality of like, everyone's doing it. What's the other phrase for it? A mob mentality, basically. Yeah. It's like everyone's doing it, so I'm just going to go do it because I don't want to think for myself. I want people to think for me. Like, my truth is in them. And I was literally like, this is ridiculous. Like, because it made so much sense. Like, if these people can't make decisions on such a low level, like driving their car, of course they're not going to be good at making important decisions, like in something like that. So anyway, that was something that came to my head today, and I was like, that's why this country like fell so hard.
I mean, it's definitely a good way to put it. And also, it's funny, you went to Canes too. I went to Canes earlier, and when I was driving home, I came that way, went to that exact light, and had that exact same thing happen pretty much. Yeah. At least 1, maybe 2 people were like waiting, hesitant. And I was thinking how stupid people are today about that same type of thing. Yeah. But that's a good thing to pull from. If they're not able to make those decisions, like, they have to rely on people. Yeah. And so when we're allowing them to vote, they're not voting for any particular idea at all. They're voting for somebody else to handle it and baby them and try to make them feel good, you know?
Yeah. It's too much effort for them because all their effort the whole entire day is going to what food do I want to eat? I just went to work all day.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Instagram or social media. That's where all their effort's going, and they have no drive. So it's like they would just rather somebody else make the decision, be like, oh, this person's going, okay, finally I can go. Like,
but you know what? That attitude has seeped into like so many other things. Even I mean, there's always been like art in all the different mediums, whether it's movies or music or whatever, that's just subpar.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, it seems like in the last 5, maybe 10 years totally, but definitely in the last 5, people have just been latching on to things that are like, I don't know, like Kendrick Lamar is a good example, I guess, just because it's relevant with the Super Bowl and all that. But, Kendrick is supposed to be like a deep rapper, right? It's supposed to mean a lot.
It used to.
You almost have to need an IQ to dissect and really understand. Now it appears to be such a surface level thing that everybody is all just agreed upon and nobody really has to dig in anything. And it's like, it's for everybody. And everybody that's like apparently new fans, they act like they're day ones. And like, so I think that's another projection of exactly what's going on. Not only are people just doing what somebody next to them is doing, they're pretending like they're the expert, that they're the one that came up with the idea. They know all this stuff. And that's where you get all these regurgitators from.
Yeah.
You know?
And like, that's a good point that you could actually see this in every aspect of life is like, maybe they're like in regards to music or in regards to movies, even if it's an awful movie or a terrible song, people will still like it because they're like, oh, I don't want to make a decision on it, but my friend likes it. So I'll just say I like it. Or this celebrity likes the song and I'll just like it. Or it's like, oh, well, I've always been a Travis Scott fan.
Right.
And it's like, I'm just going to like all of his songs, even though they're awful. It's like, what's her name? Beyonce. She had the Western album.
Which is crazy because also it's like she's trying to say she can do that because she's, okay, is she from Louisiana or is she from Houston? You know? It's like she likes to switch that up every now and again. And it's very weird to me.
But instead of people being real with their artists and be like, hey, this is entertainment. We liked you for this content. Now you're trying to switch it up and we don't like that. Go back. People are just like, oh, well, no, you've made that decision for my brain. So since I've always listened to your music, I'll just keep listening. And it's like people are just allowing themselves to be controlled in every aspect, and they're just okay with it. They just don't want to make decisions.
And you can look at the clear like quality of music, movies, all that stuff. Like movies used to be like all-star casts, like so many names that you knew and were serious actors all together in a way that you've never seen them before. A director that has all this whatever, and now it's like any stupid little idea gets the budget that movie would have gotten. They're cutting all the actors because they don't want to pay them. They're saving all this money. And people like, I don't know about movies necessarily, but it seems like people are just okay with them. Like the Mario movie I thought was awful, but I mean, I guess it's a children's movie. Yeah. But people seem to they're on board with whatever it is.
Are children's movies really children's movies?
I don't think they are. They're definitely clearly for the adults, right?
Just like if you look at, for everyone listening, I encourage you, because this makes sense, but go into any place that sells pet food and look at the packaging. It's not based on what your pet is going to want. It's based on what your preferences are. There is hamburger flavor, salmon flavor, turkey and gravy flavor. It all ties back to what you were just talking about. Like like kids' movies are based on humor that only adults understand. If you watch Shrek, your 7-year-old child's not going to understand Shrek.
Right.
There's a transvestite in Shrek. And that's what's funny. If you watch like Shrek.
Who are you talking about in Shrek? I'm trying to
think. The ugly stepsister. It's a dude.
Oh, it's been so long, but yeah, I think you're right.
No, but it's like all those things, like they make these movies for only adults to understand. Like 7-year-olds not going to understand True Love or anything like that. Right. But then it's for the parents, because the parents are the ones who take their kids and buy the movie because the parents have the money.
Okay, so there's definitely been this social engineering aspect that's geared towards the adults that go with their children. Like Zootopia was like a super woke, like,
it was the beginning of
movie.
It was,
for sure. And it seems like since then, almost every kids movie ever has had some sort of message in it, and it's very clear. But not even kids movies, just all movies, at least since like 2000, it seems like you can break them down and find what they're trying to say. Like we were talking about Eagle Eye the other day.
Yeah.
Just like we're saying, oh, is it a kids movie? That's a kids movie that like the adult is supposed to understand who's of higher intelligence, right? Yeah. But when you go see these other movies that are just for regular people, it makes it seem like, oh, that is the higher intelligence level. It's like, no, you go see those movies, and there's a layer to those as well that most people are not grasping. They're not looking for, you know?
Yeah.
Matrix, people don't even know what that movie's about. Like, people don't even understand it. They just go, that's some cool, like,
look at him
sci-fi
shoot.
movie.
Yeah, like, he can shoot really fast. It's like, that's not even the premise is full, like, this, like, they talk about it. It was like 400 years before this, there was civilization, and they crashed themselves. Like, it's literally like, if people pay attention to movies, they could see the deeper topic like you're talking about.
Or the fact that and I love this too, because there's this lady that it's an author of a book series, some black lady, I forget her name, but she wrote it, and it's actually, it got turned into The Matrix, it got turned into Terminator, and it got turned into one other. It could have been Total Recall or...
Oh, so it's before these movies were released?
Or Blade Runner, I mean.
Oh, it's like Edge Runner.
That's a cyberpunk series that they made.
Blade. It's so funny.
But those three things were actually from her original story. They just split it up and put it into something. And her original book, actually, what's crazy is... like her book was symbology for Jesus, basically. Like Neo was supposed to be Jesus and whatever.
Yeah, because they had like the Nebuchadnezzar and stuff.
And John Connor being JC, the same initials as Jesus Christ, and like all this whatever. And supposedly,
which one's John Connor?
That's the you know, Sarah Connor's the badass girl from Terminator.
Terminator.
John Connor's her son.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen that.
Yeah, for sure. But like. I think Trinity from The Matrix was supposedly supposed to be like Sarah Connor from Terminator, and they're all connected, and it's like a much bigger story too. Yeah. So it's always interesting to see, because there's probably like more messaging from her version of it that they removed, replaced with stuff. It's like just a whole different version of it that I thought was interesting. But
yeah, and then there's that movie, is it Timeless with Justin Timberlake?
Yeah, that's a crazy one.
That movie's intense. I love that movie. I saw it once because I remember seeing it when I was a kid, like the commercials. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is too cheesy. And I watched it and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is where life would be heading.
I remember I watched it with my sister, and we were both just kind of like, I don't know. It was clearly, we thought it would just be a good movie or something, but it ended up being like maybe not as fun as we thought it would be. Yeah. And my takeaway was like, yeah, that totally could happen. This could be it. But it wasn't like a good movie necessarily. It
was a good, like a Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I felt like
sort of, yeah,
like a very much like, oh, they fall in love, and comes from nothing, and he gets this chance, and then they both end up living happily. I thought it was one of those good, but like the deep the undertones are what undertone
made it,
for me was like, okay, there's like the top tier and the bottom tier, and there is nothing in between, because it's just the journey from the bottom to the top.
Right.
Like there is no stability in the middle, because you're either going to end up at the bottom or you're going to end up at the top, or you're going to die. So it's like,
it reminds me of that movie Limitless too, that I was talking about with Bradley Cooper. But like when he takes that drug or whatever, it's like there's other people that take the drug that makes you a genius, superhuman smart, and just being able to do all that, you can change every aspect of your life. So basically, you're just superhuman at that point. Yeah. You're an elite.
You're
person.
limitless. Yeah.
You are limitless. But if there's other people that are limitless, also, it's like it's this elite world that's so private and separate from everything else that like nothing else could even touch, unless you have whatever it is that makes you elite. Like in that case, it's the drug, but access, money, whatever it is. But yeah, there's such a clear divide.
Yeah. When do you think I have a movie title in my head, but like when do you think the movies started going and getting very like psyop-y and very like moved towards?
It depends on what type of psyop we're talking about.
Like trying to brainstorm your kids into
like just the general population sort of idea control.
Yeah, basically
not necessarily targeted.
Everything after 2017, basically, like how it started getting super liberal. Like, when do you think they started planting the seeds in movies? Because I think it was after Incredibles 1. Because Incredibles 1 had guns. It had like drinking. It had smoking. It had bad guys with the intent of killing children. Like it had everything.
I don't know how, but I definitely think you're right about that, because I clearly remember Incredibles 2. Something was clearly different. Yeah.
There was no. They didn't have any weapons. It was just like, oh, mind control device. Like that was the biggest thing. Or like, oh, a train. It was almost like in the old days, the threat was somebody with a gun, right? Bad guys, mobsters with the guns, and that was like the threat, right?
Yeah.
But Incredibles 2 was like the threat was terrorist attacks.
Right.
Because it was like mind control or
and speaking to everything before that, like we had the Call of Duty with terrorist attacks and all this, like that was okay to talk about. It was like the Middle East is for sure the enemy. That's okay. Yeah. These are real terrorists. And we're not funding them. We hate them. Yeah. And it was okay for that's what everybody thought. And like, yeah, that went way out the door.
It's crazy. It's weird to think that like growing up, and it's cool that, I mean, if COVID didn't happen, I don't know if anyone would have really been, a lot of people wouldn't have had their eyes open to all this, but yeah. I think since COVID happened, you can really look back on, especially my childhood, and be like, wow, like they were really trying, and it was so subtle. Like a lot of it you wouldn't even have realized. But now it also did get very blatantly obvious towards COVID, like what they were trying to do. But I think a lot of people are realizing now, like, you can't trust those developers and stuff because of the agenda.
I remember being a kid, and you remember like when American Idol was new, it was like everybody in the world, well, at least in America, was watching American Idol at least like the first 2 seasons or something.
I never watched it, but I remember watching
it was a big deal.
A finale of like, maybe it was Carrie Underwood.
I mean, yeah, she was probably on there. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only one I remember,
but,
I think.
And I was a little kid too, you know.
Yeah.
But I know that's what America was on. They were talking about like reality TV and all that type of stuff was huge at the time. But Ryan Seacrest was the host of that, and it was like, in my eyes as a kid, it was like, surely somebody controls this whole, production. Somebody paid for it. Somebody's sort of making decisions at a certain level, and these judges are clearly in control.
Yeah.
But this guy's just the host. That's always my perception. It was like, like he doesn't have any stake in anything. He is what he is. And so there was sort of a trustability, especially for certain TV personalities at the time, like, Joel McHale even modeled himself a little bit after that. And like a lot of it would just seem like, yeah, there's a normal type of person that's trustworthy. And then I saw he came out, he was doing like these Mentos gum ads and like all this, whatever. And I'm just a naive kid, but like, I remember getting this Mentos gum and just sort of realizing, oh no, he just sold this to me and I was lied to because this sucks.
Yeah.
And it sort of just broke the whole illusion. I started looking at like everybody is like, oh, they're going to use their leverage. Like, even though he's just the host, he's the host on American Idol. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just kind of opened the door. I just started questioning stuff. But yeah, by like 2010, I don't know. Some crazy stuff was going on then. Joe Rogan was doing like DMT and like all that type of stuff. And like
before anyone knew even what that was.
Before anybody knew what that was. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of new information that people were not ready for. And like, even now, if you go back to some of that stuff that was going on then that like Joe was even having on the show, man, it's crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. I mean, going back to, kind of like what you were talking about with like reality TV and stuff. Not really off topic, but did you ever watch, Big Brother?
No, I mean, I know the concept and all that, but
so I got into it when I was in college watching it. I'd always heard of it, and I was like, that's lame,
right?
But then I watched this one season, and there was a guy who like knew how to play the game, and it was the coolest thing to watch.
That's cool
because he was surrounded by a bunch of dumb people. Because you get people on that show for content.
Yeah.
Right. And you can't have a bunch of logical people. They have to be just mentally infirm. And so they had this one guy on the show who had previously participated on a show, lost the year before. I think he was runner up.
Okay.
And then I think if you were runner up, you're allowed to come back, or you get invited back if you place a top 5 or 3 or something. He comes back, and then he's like manipulating everybody the whole game, and it was amazing to watch because they do their little like feedback like things after.
Yeah.
So it was so funny to watch.
Little confession.
And then at the very end, like this guy who checked every single box for minority was like, it was him and that dude. And then the minority guy like won because everybody gets to vote. Like the fans vote and everyone just voted for him. And I was so mad because I was like, this guy knew how to play the game. He played everybody. And the other guy just happened to be in second place because there has to be somebody in second place. Right. And so this guy was winning the whole time and he's just manipulating. It was like Survivor, but like way funnier because it was indoors and they all lived together. So it was like, and he lost. And I was so annoyed because it was like that time was almost like we can't reward somebody who's playing the game and who's winning. We have to reward the infirm person because everybody watched the guy manipulate everybody, but he was playing the game. So he wasn't like doing it to like because he hated him, but like everybody was like, oh well, as like a troll, we're not gonna vote that guy in.
But isn't it like letting everybody see somebody manipulate the game perfectly and do everything in front of everybody's eyes, and then they change the game or alter it, they just don't let it happen so that it seems like that's impossible. Like even if you do everything perfect, things just don't work out. Like it's,
I guess, but the thing I'm talking about though is like the culture change is like normally people would have been like, oh yeah, like he deserves to win. Like that's what it used to be like, is like this guy played the game like Wheel of Fortune or Jeopardy, right? But it's like, imagine if you watch Jeopardy and some guy's beating everybody, but at the very end they say, hey, we're going to give this guy an easier answer than you.
Right.
And, or we're going to let everybody vote. Like you have $1 million in cash, but then this guy has like $100,000 in cash and you guys are both competing in Jeopardy. But then we're going to let the fans choose whose answer is best. And everyone just wants to vote for the guy who doesn't have the $1 million. And it was like almost like a troll, but not a troll. It was almost like we don't want the winner to win. We want the winners to be losers.
Yeah.
And it is almost like what happened leading up to COVID is like, that was just like the mindset that everyone was like, oh, like equity and like everyone has to be equal. And it was crazy to see.
And it was like all that ideology goes towards equality, which is like a net zero across the board. But they started going into the negative numbers and they're like, how negative can we go? Victim mentality on everything. I'm a bigger victim than you are. I deserve more sympathy.
Yeah.
And And that's the other thing too. It's like, I just, I genuinely wonder how many trans people are, just like white trans people specifically, like white male trans, if you want to get real specific, like how many of them genuinely, if there wasn't a large group of, LGBT supporters and this whole thing to fall into, like how many of them would have come to this realization on their own? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't know. But like, that's what I'm saying. Like the culture shift of like, I don't know. It was just weird, like seeing it happen and like watching it happen, that it's like, instead of people being like, oh, that's a game show, we want the person who does the best to win.
Yeah.
That they were just like, you know what, we're going to screw this guy over. It was just so frustrating to see. But like, it makes sense now. But then the idea is that mob mentality of like, oh, we're all going to work together now to like crap all over the people who are winning. And you saw that from like the BLM riots all the way to 2020 and the beginning of 2023, basically. And then all the way, you could see like,
well, it's that same type of stuff that like, it's empowering the people that don't need to be empowered. Like we're giving the prize to the people that don't deserve it, but it's also taking away the respect, the recognition, the power, the funding, all that stuff, the voice from the people that are actually doing things that will, strive to do stuff. And so it started being good for them. And we go, okay, good for you. Cool. But then good for them means bad for everybody else. It's like, hold on now.
Yeah.
And yeah, slippery slope with everything. We just need, like, every couple of years, we're going to have to recheck everything. And if you just go, you can't say anything, that means people can't check anything. I'm really glad the PC things died out a little bit.
Yeah, the whole cancel culture thing was toxic.
Just like holding your tongue in public and like knowing that everybody else was too. And not necessarily that you knew that they had a bad opinion, but like you just knew that they can't say a normal thing. Like,
yeah, but I think it all ties back to what we started talking about is a lot of these people didn't want to make a decision. So they decided to make a decision based on what a majority of people kept making. And that not majority, it started off as a minority, but it just kept growing and growing and growing. And then eventually they were like, well, this group of people beats up people or riots. So I don't want to be against them. I'll just go with them. So that way I don't have to deal with like the pressure, which was the holding your tongue, the PC thing. That's what it just led to.
I don't know. It's like, I feel like some people are just opinionated and outspoken. And then it sucks when we get in that PC culture for them because they're just definitely holding their tongue. But for me, it was like, I always felt like, it's not that I feel so strongly about anything, but it's like, I just am aware of some stuff and like, it's just not worth it to bring it up ever. You know, it's not like I was scared, right? But it was
some
like,
of it's a moot point. It's like,
I felt like, yeah, it's not worth it on my energy. And it's also probably just better to be nice to you in the moment for whatever. But that's like a temporary solution, right?
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we have a more permanent solution that we're working on.
Yeah. It was also funny. You know, it was one of the funniest things about the whole PC thing was watching stand-up comedians.
I was about to say comedy was, dude, it was rough for
so bad. The amount of people that like you knew that they were bought and sold.
Oh man,
when they went on
Let's
stage.
Name them.
Yeah, dude, literally. Like Rogan even did it. He'd be like, "I'm not making fun of you. You can do what you want." And it's like, if you have to preface your joke like that,
yeah.
You're just coward. Like the whole point is people should know who you are and your comedy. But the fact that every single person got up there and they're like Shane Gillis does it in one of his bits where he's like making fun of Special Olympics, like the idea of it. Mm-hmm. And he's like, "I'm not saying the Olympians are bad." It's like, nobody's thinking that you're saying that. But the fact that you have to preface that means that you're just worried about your paycheck instead of your humor.
Yeah.
I feel like it was funny watching the comedians like that were like, they were so bold in what they were saying, and then they just got brought down to this level because they were scared.
Well, it was like, if you looked around, like it seemed like the only person that was still sort of saying not the only person, there was a handful of people, but the person that comes to my mind is like Bill Burr. It was like, when Bill Burr is the edgiest comedian out, like it's a sad state for comedy. Like he doesn't, bite his tongue or anything, but like he's not really saying anything a normal person like from wherever he's from, Boston, right?
Yeah.
That like he's just a normal Boston guy.
Yeah. I mean, he's changed a lot now, but it's also cool. I think a lot of those comics too realize, they probably look back and they're like, man, like, why did I say that?
They didn't want to do that. I know they're looking back and going, if they rewatch it now.
Because hindsight is what it is. Like, they're fine now. So they're probably, because everyone who was canceled has come back from it.
Yeah. Well, I think if you look back at like even normal people's lives just from that whole pandemic era, their posts, their videos, all that stuff, they're like, it just doesn't feel right. Like I saw somebody was making some survival video or something, and they were like packing a bag, and they were like, I keep some extra masks in here, and I was like, yeah, this didn't age well, huh?
Yeah, all those videos, I've seen people with masks on, and like, or like the YouTube videos.
You still see people sometimes.
Oh yeah, it's the worst, dude. It pisses me off. But the I thought one of the best, kind of like we're talking about comedy, how looking back, like what they did, but the YouTube videos that when COVID broke, the video title, or like there was like not like a warning label, but something that came up that was like, oh, this video was recorded before the outbreak started or something like that, because people were so offended if they saw you recording a video together that they would just label their video, oh, this was recorded before the outbreak happened, so that way no one got mad if they didn't have masks on.
I remember that.
Dude, it's like the people that were so like cowardly of what other people were going to say was ridiculous. Because, I don't want to get labeled as insensitive. It's like, oh my gosh, like the people that are watching your videos for the most part probably aren't worried about that because they don't care. Anyway, it was crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just it's crazy because like I'll see old people sometimes still out driving in their car by themselves with a mask on, and I'm just like, I feel bad for them because I assume they're just probably listen to like NPR and like,
Yeah, maybe not anymore. I think Trump's defunding that.
Yeah, good.
But yeah,
was that USAID paid for?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, not surprising.
Yeah, but there's a lot of those people that I think they're also. We were obviously talking about at the beginning, like they want people to help them make their own decisions.
Yeah,
I think that they are now stuck in that decision, and they can't get back out of it because they realize that there's an ego check. That it's like you have to, if you go back, you have to basically say, I was wrong, I was an idiot, they used me. And so a lot of people don't want to do that. And they want to just stay.
It's sort of 50-50 with everybody that believed all that stuff. Half of them are just like, I feel kind of dumb about that. And they'll just like quietly take that and they'll reformulate their opinions. And the other people, I think they have something else that it almost seems like a cheating girlfriend that's like trying to make it seem like it's your fault, or like, some sort of manipulation. Like it's a sore loser, like, low blow. Like, I don't know. It's a weird mentality that they have right now, but I think it won't last very long. Like,
no, it's
toddlers throwing fits.
It's also weird to think about. It's 2025. Like COVID happened 5 years ago.
That is insane.
Like to me, it still feels like yesterday.
Half a decade.
Yeah. So I think give it 5 more years. These people are gonna like you said, they're silently like changing without anyone noticing. They'll finally be out of it, and that way they can identify with, like I was never a part of it or whatever, because now it's hidden. It's been so long ago. Like
the energy of America when like the first Transformers movie came out. What happened to that movie? What happened to that?
I loved that movie. That was like, it was like Eagle Eye, same time. Right. Eagle Eye was a little bit after. After. But in the sense of like Michael Bay created both, right?
Did he?
I think he created Eagle Eye.
He might have. Yeah, that makes sense.
But like, anyway, like you were saying, like it was so like no one's made a movie like this before. And it was like so invigorating. You get the romance of like this super nerdy guy.
But it was like you had all of that stuff, but you didn't have any sort of dumb context to put everything in, and we just got everything, and it was like, I guess Megan Fox is hot at the time, and that wasn't like, I don't know, risque to have somebody be clearly the hot interest in a movie, and like we have cars and we have action and robots and explosions. It was like that's so America, but it seemed like we couldn't have anything be truly American for a while. It was like when Top Gun 2, I guess, came out. Yeah. It was like, wow, that's the most American movie since whenever. It's like we used to have that all day long.
Yep.
That's what we used to do.
That was a great movie. Interesting poll. I mean, I can't think of any other movie that was like an American movie in that time frame, like based around like teenage boy, like high school boy. Yeah. Like that was and such an interesting character too, like Shia LaBeouf, like
Sam Witwicky.
He's such an interesting actor, and it's such a great role. Like, but
I actually really like him as an actor.
Yeah. Fury, he was great in Fury.
Oh man, Fury, phenomenal. I love that movie.
I mean, Eagle Eye, obviously, he was great in. I thought he was great in Indiana Jones. Like,
he's good in a lot of stuff. I'm forgetting a bunch of stuff I've seen him in too, but yeah, he's kind of like, he's definitely a method actor. He gets really into it, and people debate, his stories and all. There's controversy around him.
Yeah, I mean, I think drugs played a big part of his downfall. But yeah, it's crazy, dude. But
going from like Even Stevens to, he had a crazy career.
Yeah, he did. I think he's just now like, I don't think he's acting anymore, because he had that one cop movie, right? He was like a cop. It was like his most recent movie, I think. But
I don't know.
He did that, and then I don't think he has done anything else.
The last thing I saw, I didn't even see the movie, but the last I saw of Shia LaBeouf, he was he had gotten a tattoo all on his chest or his back or something.
Yeah.
And joined a Mexican gang. Legitimately joined a Latino gang in California.
Really?
Because he was basically doing research, method acting to
play.
play.
Yeah. I think it was that cop movie.
Is that the movie?
He must have done it to learn. Yeah, but I think that was the movie that you're talking about because he had tattoos.
Crazy.
He had tattoos in that movie.
Yeah, and he legitimately got those tattoos and like I think what is his nickname, like Creeper or something?
I didn't see the movie, but I know what you're talking about.
But that's crazy.
Yeah,
I remember when he did the he did a live stream of like it was like basically there was a Trump flag up somewhere. And he had taken it down.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Put like a "They Won't Divide Us" flag or something like that. And he was live streaming the whole thing. Right.
Oh,
and
my
then,
gosh.
what was it? 4chan, I think, found the exact location because of the stars in the background. And in like less than 2 hours, I think, it was taken down.
That's right.
But I just remember him being vocal and like in his protest art demonstration era. He was kind of anti-Trump and I don't know. Not that I blame anybody for thinking one way, and then you can change your mind or be wrong, and like I won't hold it against you. But
dude, that movie though, Transformers with like Linkin Park.
Yeah, dude.
In such quality, like there's not a whole lot of
dude. The credits on that is a meme still to this day, just rolling. Like, that's great.
Like the only thing I could think of that's like close was like 8 Mile, like at the end when he plays "Lose Yourself." Like there's not a whole lot of movies that like end with such a banger like musical outro.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. I mean, I feel like Iron Man was a super American movie also. The first Iron Man, incredible.
Yeah.
Not such a fan of like all the recent Marvel stuff. Like I'm not like a big Marvel guy, but I could live without it.
I could live without the Thor movies. I think that they could have been so much better, like produced or storyline. But yeah, that first Iron Man was like full blown what you wanted, like Batman, right? When they did the Dark Knight, Bruce Wayne, like they created his character. Like Iron Man, they did that perfectly. Like some snob who has a lot of money, who's super smart. Like that's such a brilliant. Like
I remember watching it and just being like, oh wow, like you could do that. Like somebody could legitimately do that.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, he got bit by a spider. Like,
yep.
No, if you just are smart enough and have the money to do it, like and that's why I think like Elon and all these other people, Zuckerberg, like they could be superheroes or supervillains if they wanted to.
Just secretly making their own suits and stuff.
Yeah. But I guess at a certain point, like robots, just send robots to do it. Why even go? Why be Iron Man? Just be Iron Robot.
Yeah, I mean
Iron Giant.
Yeah, I mean, but the idea is that Stark could have done that, and he eventually does do it.
Yeah,
because he makes his own squadron of people.
Dude, but what was cool about that, like when he made the first suit, it was because he was just like basically trapped in the desert cave.
Yeah,
and out of necessity, he designed that suit out of scrap metal and all that. It was the coolest intro.
Yeah.
Love that. And Robert Downey Jr. was like not in good standing before that movie.
Correct. He went to jail.
Yeah, he went to jail. He had a huge, history of drugs and all this and just bad interviews and all sorts of different stuff. And he kind of fell off. He was like a D-list celebrity probably. And yeah, that movie definitely put him on the map.
Was Tropic Thunder after that?
It had to have been. But also Tropic Thunder, great movie. And
such a good movie. It's
really
such a
interesting.
Weird concept. But like Ben Stiller, like he has a lot of weird movies that he directs and produces.
He does. But also Tropic Thunder is the movie that made me understand all the other Ben Stiller movies.
Yeah.
Because like I don't think I would have liked him as much.
Yeah. I didn't watch Zoolander 2, but the first one, it was so good because it was like the understanding of like the brainwash and how the government works with these giant corporations and the assassinations. They're using these stupid models to kill people. Like I was genius. Like the predicate of the movie was just like great.
Yeah. I love the early looks into some of that stuff, especially from the early 2000s. Like, I don't know if I talked to you about this at all, but the movie Josie and the Pussycat.
Mm,
Josie and the Pussycats.
never seen it.
So like, I mean, just as in general, like, I think maybe that's a comic book series from way back in the day.
I'll look it up while you're talking.
But like in like the first Scooby-Doo that came around, they always had like oh, they ran into Batman. Oh, they ran into so and so. They ran into Josie and the Pussycat dolls I keep saying that, Josie and the Pussycats in cartoon form in like the first Scooby-Doo. But so it's this old thing, but they made a real life movie of those characters, and that movie is the most transparent look into the music industry and manipulation that you will ever find. Like it is insane. But it flew over everybody's heads because it was almost a Disney type movie, it seemed like. But essentially, I want to say this movie came out in like 2004. But
2001.
2001. Okay, great. Even better. Wow, that's early. This is awesome. But they like the first scene of the movie, damn near there's like a plane, there's a boy band on a airplane in the sky, and their manager, this guy Wyatt, the boy band's all sitting there, and he jumps out the plane basically, and they're like, "Oh, is that Wyatt? Is that guy in the parachute look like Wyatt?" Or whatever? And they're like, "Oh shit!" Basically, they were trying to kill this boy band, and that's how the movie starts. But they hire this no-one band out of nowhere and bring them into the industry, and you see all the manipulation, and they're putting subliminal messages in their music and controlling the audience, and it seemed like this is just a good plot for a movie that doesn't really happen back then, but man, it holds up now, like how accurate every little aspect of it was. It's crazy.
Yeah,
they even had like code words for different things. Like clearly they're disappearing artists and doing stuff like that. There was one like they kidnapped somebody, and the code for it was like code Teen Spirit, which is like Kurt Cobain, Nirvana, Teen Spirit, and it's like,
oh my god,
I don't know. There's a lot of stuff in it, but that's a good movie about control and manipulation.
That's so crazy, dude.
2001 is insane, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cars was made in 2004.
That sounds right.
I think Incredibles was 2003, 2004, something like that. But it's weird to think of like all these movies, like the quality and how good they were like back when they were released. Like the Incredibles, like now, like
still like, awesome.
Yeah, like even the animation, like was on point. And then you come and look at these movies today, and you're like, yeah, they're more 4K, but the storyline just sucks. Which I think is like the strategy is if you can make something more appealing to children to look at because it's in 4K, but the storyline sucks, you're still gonna get sales because it looks more appealing.
It's just like the AI argument, just outsourcing stuff to the cheapest commodity. But it was working for a while, but we noticed, and like, if I don't know, maybe these parents really buy into stuff because they're so attached to their child that their child's perspective becomes their perspective a little bit. And I'm definitely detached from that, but I feel like people are probably not taking their kids to as many kids movies nowadays as like they used, not during the Cars era. Like, you know what I mean? Like the Cars era, every kid ever saw that movie, and like nowadays, I feel like kids probably miss some of these.
Yeah.
Yeah. They might see the staples like Moana, Frozen, stuff like that. But
yeah, I remember because you used to have birthday parties at movie theaters.
Oh, yeah.
Like you would take your 20 friends on your birthday party and you'd go to the movies because it was cheaper to get because they'd sell it packages for like birthday parties and stuff. And then
I remember that.
You'd leave and then they'd have the separate room to the side where you could have your cake and stuff. But like, it was great to see those movies because then all the kids would talk about them and they were relatable and they made sense. But now it's like they suck.
Well, okay. So it's annoying because everything probably gets spoiled to a degree. Like I know things about shows I've never seen, and probably I don't want to see those shows. I don't care to watch Euphoria, but like people talk about it, maybe not nowadays, but they're always talking about stuff. Lord of the Rings was like a staple that like saw them all in the theater, and it was like a big deal. And I feel like now kids, it's like video games are kind of their movies. Like they don't really watch movies, they don't read books, they don't watch TV shows until they get into like 13 sort of territory.
And now they're trying to make movies based off video games, like the Minecraft movie. like flop. Like to me, I'm like, you think these kids are gonna go watch some movie based off Minecraft? Like
absolutely.
What I think people are gonna watch. So you remember Dream in Minecraft?
Yeah.
That's what people want to go watch. Is they want to go watch somebody in the moment as that actual character playing and doing this adventure. Like that's what kids want nowadays. Like that's why they watch streaming and they watch people like Kai Cenat, because it's like this person's character is so all over the place and I can go watch them. It's like that's the new movie. But if you're gonna try to take these people and put them into movies, I just don't think it's gonna work.
Pause. iCarly pre-programming for the streaming era, 100%.
Crazy. Like, was streaming even a thing? Like before
it technically
that?
was, but it was like Justin TV, which is what Twitch was before it was Twitch and Amazon bought it and all this. It was Justin TV, started by this one dude named Justin, and the original Joe Rogan podcast was on Justin TV, and that's just kind of what it was.
That's crazy.
But nobody was live streaming. If anybody was, you definitely didn't have like. I mean, I guess you had video game streamers, but it was like. One, they were super good, and it wasn't personality based. It was like they're good at the game. That's why you'd watch them. And then I think anybody personality based was probably just the origins of like IRL streaming type stuff.
Yeah,
but that's about it.
That's weird to think about. iCarly did kind of like predict that whole.
Well, I mean, it not even predict. It's just like that's going to be a thing here. Kids get you this next generation.
Yeah,
of
not predict. Yeah, but
Nick
it's
kids,
like
you know,
that's crazy
because it definitely seemed like there was a certain maybe like I would say like a Disney era. There was like Lizzie McGuire type stuff or whatever.
Lindsay
right?
Lohan, yeah.
Exactly. All that type of stuff. And then it was like iCarly was this next era for sure, right? And then all the Disney shows changed too, that's for sure.
You know what's an interesting conflict to think about that's going to happen? So everyone who's, for the most part, popular now, you can go back to Rogan. I mean, a lot of like the Simpson brothers, stuff like that. Like they have carried their fame because they started when they were kids, right? They started with like, it used to be SNL, or they played children in bigger shows, and then they grew into their roles that they're in now. That also happened with like Nickelodeon, right? Like Jake Paul, all of them, right? They all started from there, and then they like worked their way. And now I think the last group of people, is like people from Euphoria, like because Sabrina Carpenter was she in Euphoria?
Oh, was she in that?
I think she was.
I didn't know where she came from.
I think she was, but like, I think that is the last time you're gonna see people getting famous from like playing a low role in a movie or a TV show and then gain this massive following. I think a lot of it now is going to be a conflict between that and streamers. Yeah. Because a lot of people would rather see their favorite personality, because it used to be like, oh, I like this personality in the show. Now I'm going to follow them, like Brad Pitt or whatever it was, back in like the early 2000s, like Lindsay Lohan. And then those people also went on to get like music deals and stuff. You see, like Sabrina Carpenter, right? Like they all, and what's her name? She played in that Nickelodeon dance movie, Bella Thorne.
Oh yeah.
Right. So it's like, but now all these people are going to start coming from streaming, and then they're going to start going into their own things.
Well,
like,
you even see like streaming has become this crazy hub where even priorly successful celebrities, like they migrate towards the streaming thing, and it's a pivot, almost like you'll see, like Cam Newton has a podcast now. A lot of people pivot towards podcasts. A lot of people pivot towards live streaming. It's a similar thing, but it's like become the new thing, right? Where it was TV and movies and real film and stuff, and then it was the internet and YouTube, right? And that YouTube is now streaming, sort of. Not that YouTube or shows have completely died, but I think it's just the fastest way to reach the most people at the same time. And that live aspect of it is so important. Like something could happen in front of 1 million people, and if it's live and we don't like go back, if we're past that moment, everybody's convinced already. We already decided as a group, we agreed on something. So it's much easier to convince people because less people want to go back and fact check something. However, there's that clipping aspect of it where anybody can then go back and then put their spin of what they think this really was, right?
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. It's an interesting thing. It's like an interactive. It's like you're interacting directly with the person's career.
Yeah, but it's also there's a weird give and take too, because a lot of these big streamers like Kai or Speed, they're bringing people in to help them remain popular.
Yeah.
Like, so Speed's trying to go after all these big athletes, or Jake Paul is trying to go after all these big fighters, and
Right.
and Kai's trying to go after like Kai or Kevin Hart and all
And
like
rappers
Ice Spice and all these people, right? Like, it's such a weird give and take that it's like people didn't come to you like they used to go to the movies, right? Like, they used to go to the movies because they were following this person, or if Ice Spice played a part in a movie, they went to go see the movie because she was in it. Like, nowadays, people are watching your stream because they're there for you. They're not there for these famous people.
Right.
But there's this mentality that they have that they're like, oh, I need to stay relevant, so I need to pull these famous people in. It's almost like what Mr. Beast is doing. Like, if he continues to do what he does, he's going to have to keep using like famous people. Like, that's how he got his channel start. Like, his channel started because it blew up because he was giving away money. But then he was like, well, it's kind of falling off. People, it kind of plateaued. So now I got to bring in famous people and have them fight over money and be involved, right? So then he like, now he gained repopularity, then he plateaued. And then he started doing the charitable stuff. But he didn't just do charitable stuff. He did charitable stuff with famous people or other content creators that were like super famous at the time, which, helped him not plateau.
Right.
And then he plateaued, and then I feel like he's just got to keep doing stuff with like more and more famous people, that it's like, that's like a lot of these streamers, instead of just saying, hey, I want to entertain my audience that I've grown, they're now having to involve these people to come make them like relevant.
I think there's like overall sort of like things they used to be so they are the way they are. If I made something, you can't, like, I have patents on it. You can't mess with this. These are my ideas. And people used to respect all these different ideas. But like, everything is a collaborative effort now. Mm-hmm. Like, nobody truly owns anything. Like, you might have invented something or been the first to do something, but it's going to be innovated on. We're going to change it. We're going to see how everybody feels on it. And I think with these people like Kai, he doesn't get whoever, like we were talking about, Ice Spice was on there, but she wasn't on there when she was the most relevant, like when her first song was the biggest. Yeah. It was after the fact. Like, the lukewarm thing is key to it, where they're both legitimizing each other, and so there's a fair exchange.
Yeah, it's true.
But it's also like all around, it's a bunch of people like validating each other across the board to where everybody looks valid, so nobody worries about everybody. And it's this whole network, but it's like real fragile. Because at first, I think Kai and those types of people were able to manipulate people a lot better, but it's like, you turn it on now, it's like it's so obvious everything that's going on.
He's a plant though.
Well, yeah.
So it's like, no wonder, like, he's got T-Mobile commercials. Like,
yeah.
Like, Ninja doesn't have that. Like, Tim the Tatman doesn't have that. Dr. Disrespect didn't have that. Like,
I mean, Tim the Tatman does, he did like a huge stream from the AT&T Stadium and got sponsors and like.
Well, I'm saying like he's been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
Kai just showed up.
Yeah.
He showed up one day and he's got Kevin Hart, Nicki Minaj, Ice Spice, all these people. And I'm like,
can we talk about Doc for a sec? Because, man, it's like
that dude.
I'm just disappointed with the way that everything is. I don't know. Before the whole debacle and everything, it was like, man, it is refreshing. Like, I liked the guy. It was entertaining. It was like,
it was a good character.
You don't need to get too invested. And what I really liked about it was like that whole wrestling aspect of it. It was like, cool, this is fun and entertaining, and it doesn't have to be real life drama like everybody else, right? It was all this, I don't know, it was just pure entertainment, and it was funny. And also, it wasn't like during the PC era, it was like, not that he was saying anything crazy, but he wasn't like holding back an opinion on anything.
Yeah.
Just seemed like,
because he could play it into his character.
Right, especially that.
Which is what comedians do on the stage.
And then outside of that, kind of respect for him for, game development and other things. It's like, the Infinite Warfare game. He designed like pretty much all the maps in that game. That was one of the better games out of that whole era, and specifically because of the map design. But yeah, it's just kind of disappointing the way that whole thing went, and I don't know. It's just madness.
Yeah, I think it's hard also because like, just kind of like politics, you force something into the limelight, and you basically force everyone to make a decision, and it's like, I don't know what happened. Like, I wasn't there. Like, you could either believe him or you don't have to believe him, but like everything that got released, it's like,
either way, I'm just gonna let go.
I don't know. Like half of, and I think that's why it's so entertainment is. That's why everyone loves the gossip entertainment and they love the reality TV shows, is because like you get to watch someone's life implode, and and it's weird though, like to just watching that whole thing. But he was like the top of the top.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, and the way I'm talking about it is like, oh, it's some streamer guy, and like it turns out, he might potentially on paper, off a technicality, or maybe more than that, be a pedophile. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's like that's the story. I don't know. That's too much to break down. But aside from that, like just he was on top. He set the trend for, just like what even a streamer could be.
Yeah.
And
what was his game?
Initially,
it was a shooter.
Yeah, I mean, I always say like PUBG probably.
No. Didn't he develop a game? Like his own game?
His actual what was that called?
I don't remember if it even released or if it did.
It is in beta.
So
it was like Midnight Industries was the company that did it or something like that.
Oh, did they stop because the stuff
Society
got dropped? Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I forgot what that thing was called, but yeah, I think that company, they released a statement saying, "Hey, we're not we're not doing anything with him or drop it, whatever." But anyway, that whole thing was really an NFT sort of. It started as an NFT scam, but I think they sort of legitimized it to a degree, and were really making a game. And then that went away, and I don't know what they're doing. And then supposedly Shroud was making a game. Did you see that?
I did not.
It's kind of old news now, but I guess he has a game that's. It's like I think it's like Valorant or Counter-Strike, but it might be like 3 teams instead, and I don't know. There was some sort of spin on it.
That's weird. They should just have Age of Empires. Just like they should just make a game like that, but just like insane.
Speaking of, you know what? I gotta check on Steam. You just reminded me because Sid Meier's Civilization. The new one's it might be out now. I don't know. But it's coming out 2025, like January, February.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. So
that might be exactly what that is. But sort of.
Yeah.
At least the modern version.
So I want to get into my other topic. So I kind of going back to what we've talked about previously in other podcasts or even today, just like the total control that the government has on people in the weirdest ways. But the one that I've always disagreed with, and I'm all for charity, I'm all for helping others, but at some point people have to understand when they're being scammed and lied to, right? So you could see, like for instance, homelessness in California, like people are like, oh, donate here, help, but it's like they've spent apparently $250 billion on trying to fight homelessness, and it's gotten worse. Right. So it's like at some point you have to realize these people are manipulating you and using your money and using your goodness, because they're like, oh, donate to this and you're going to help. But is that money really going to help? Like, are you really helping, or are they just ripping you off? Right. So the same thing I think is happening with blood. And I have been against donating blood. I don't do it, first of all, because you're not in a hospital. You're in a moving van.
Yeah.
And the amount of people who are so willing to give something like blood away just because they're like, oh, well, this could help somebody. It's like, you realize that you have to pay for health insurance.
Yeah.
Like, so you're telling me that if somebody could go into a hospital, like it happened recently when the insurance company pulled a surgeon out and said, I want you to stop operating on this guy because we don't want to cover him for insurance. Like, so you're saying you're okay with giving blood, right, and donating blood. But then to save someone's life, like, so you're willing to donate, but then you are also willing to pay for health insurance because, like, to me, it doesn't make sense. Like, if the people basically said, hey, we're going to stop donating blood and you're going to start paying us to donate our blood, because where are they going to get blood from? You can't use animal blood. Like, what are you going to do? Hook up inmates in prisons?
Probably.
Yeah. But, like, for me, I'm like, it's so disturbing that, like, people, like, that they donate willingly because in their mind they're saying, well, this could help somebody. But it's like, how do you know? Dude. Because but this is why. When that blood goes to the hospital, do they give that blood to somebody for free? I'm pretty sure blood infusions are not free.
No, they're not.
They're using your blood. They're using everything like, obviously you get paid for plasma, but like they're using your blood at these because there's places where you can go and get paid for donating your plasma or whatever. But like there's a lot of these places that say, oh, go and donate your blood, like Salvation Army or whatever it is. And you can go donate your blood, pints of blood. And then they're charging that person to use your blood.
Yeah.
Whereas if we said no, like if everyone at one point said, nope, we are not donating anymore, because that's where they get a lot of it. If you do the math, like they're getting a lot of the blood stocks from people donating. And if everyone just said, you know what, no, you're going to start charging us because we have to pay for health insurance in this country. So therefore, we're not just going to donate. You're going to pay us. I feel like it would help a lot of people like realize, oh, there's a transactional value. Because it's like, yeah, I get that people want to be nice and people want to give money, and I don't have a problem with you going and donating blood, but like the idea that the government is just brainwashing people, manipulating them just to give blood because they know, oh, it's way cheaper. Like, for instance, what we've seen with USAID, right? USAID, the amount of money we're wasting, right? And you see these commercials saying, donate to the LA fires.
Yeah.
It's like the amount of money that we've wasted, they could have had money to go and take care of this entire population that just got affected, but they're asking you to donate money. We pay taxes. We already are, the money we pay is supposed to go to that. Why are you asking me for more money? And then it makes you realize, oh, all this money is getting laundered and getting funneled different places. That's why, how many, the amount of, what are they called? Nonprofits that there are out there. It's like for the amount of nonprofits out there, everything should be taken care of, but they're not. You're just giving your money somewhere and it's just getting laundered.
I don't even, like, when I go and they ask if you want to round up, you know, when you go eat and all that type of stuff, I said no to every single one.
Yeah.
I'm not contributing to the fraud.
Yeah, at all. Because they're like, oh, well, this is going to go help kids. It's like, okay, I look in the container, right? And there's $5 in there. That's not going to anything. Like, because the gas that it takes to drive that 5 cents to the hospital is $5.
Right.
So it's like, it's a lie. Like, all of it is just them manipulating us out of our goodwill and our desire to actually help people, that it's just a lie. And that's why, for me, like, when I see like the blood donation trucks, or like, you know, when I was in high school or in college, it'd be like, oh, you can donate blood and you get a free t-shirt. It's like, I'm giving you something that my body generates and it keeps me alive, because the life is in the blood, right? It's like, that's basically like saying, if my arm could regrow, right? And me saying, yeah, I'll donate my arm because it can just regrow. It's like, but then why am I paying for health insurance? Like, if I'm giving you something for free, then this should be free back to me. Like it
should be.
Like, anyway, but it's just disturbing the amount of like them brainwashing people for you just to give over your assets and just donate all this stuff. Where on the other end, it's not like people, like, it's not like, oh, look at all these good things that I did because I donated all this money, and then whenever I'm in need, I'm going to get exactly what I gave back to society. It's like, no, you're going to be handed a bill that's an itemized bill from the hospital saying this is everything you owe. And for me, it's like, the amount of people that give blood the pints and pints somebody could have given, because some people donate like 2 or 3 times a year just because they do it out of habit and they're like, oh, I'm being nice. It's like, imagine you do that for 40 years. And at the end of your life, you're like, oh crap, I need a kidney transplant because I'm old. And they're like, sorry, you got to pay. It's like, look at all this blood that I don't, look at all the stuff that I gave. Like, I'm just saying that in the situation of that, of like donating blood, they don't care. They don't care that you donate. They don't, it's not like you get like a tax write-off, like, or anything like that. Anyway, it's just mind blowing to me. Like, cause people do it with their,
I don't even know if the blood that they're taking from those blood drives ends up at the hospitals either. It's like a lot of them, cause I've seen some of them are sort of scams where they're selling your blood to another market. They're not even selling it to the healthcare system.
Yeah. Or like there's companies that will be like, oh, give us your car. We'll donate your car for you. And for me, it's like, but what if my car has a little problem that I don't know? And then you take the car and you're like, oh, we can't donate it. It's unsafe.
Right.
We're just going to take your car and sell it for parts. Boom. We made money off of you because you thought that you were giving this away. And again, it's not upfront. They don't get the money. It's all laundered because they're nonprofit organizations. But there's a reason why all these rich, famous people are opening nonprofit organizations.
Yeah.
It's because the status that it brings you and the money in the back end that it brings you.
The Kardashian mom, she started a church. Like, why does she need to start a church?
Get that tax exempt status, baby.
Like, I don't think there's any indication prior to opening that she wanted to do that, or like, it's not like she has a history of, being religious at all. It's just, I don't know. And they're able to do it so easily because it's all set up. If you just know the right person, it's like they're going to tell you exactly how to do it. Oh, here's, they all share lawyers and.
But it's so sad because kind of like you were saying with that church, right? It's like they're just trying to take advantage of people because the hardworking person has a set of standards that they live their life according to, and a lot of it is generosity, charity.
Yeah.
And they just take advantage of that and say, okay, like for instance, COVID, they took advantage of people that trust the government, right? There's people that have trusted the government for a long time, and that's a wonderful thing to be able to trust your government.
It used to be good.
And they just took advantage of everyone and said, oh no, just trust us. And then they didn't want to tell you what was in the vaccine. They didn't want to tell you like this actually could impact your fertility. They just said, oh, trust us. And then people did. And now they're going to get the short end of the stick. And then what does Biden do? He pardons Pfizer. He pardons
that. Wild.
And it's like, so you just screwed all these people and they have no way of it. But it's crazy.
Real quick on Pfizer. So they are like, people just know them from the vaccines during COVID.
The commercials.
They have had such a career of awful pharmaceutical manipulation. Basically, they sort of invented Oxycontin and single-handedly started there's two things. There's the opioid epidemic as a whole, but there's the heroin epidemic that hit before that.
Yeah.
They are solely responsible for the opioid epidemic, currently. And like since probably like I'd say 2008 maybe at the earliest, that really started taking hold of things. But Oxycontin, they created Xanax.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
They're literally, yeah.
Wow.
People back in the day, because people can't read or spell things, they used to call, like, slang for Xanax used to be P. Fishers, which is Pfizer. You know what I mean?
Fishers.
People
That's
can't
weird.
read. But yeah. And so they've like had this huge track record of, awful drugs that just poison these communities beyond, and the dependency on like a legitimately legalized pharmaceutical too. And just open the doors for, all this fentanyl stuff that's going on, basically. Like that, all of that is their fault, single-handedly, just Pfizer.
Sense.
There's a bunch of other bad companies too, but Pfizer's really the one that, as far as like drug abuse and all that type of stuff, they are the ones responsible for that. Other pharmaceutical companies are more on like the, I don't know, like Martin Shkreli type people where they're making like AIDS medication and stuff like that, right? That's where the rest of the profit's made from. But like Pfizer's number one, like out of anybody to be poisoning Like they're the biggest people.
Yeah, and it also shows it leads into collusion too. I mean, it's weird to think about how fast food is so prominent, and that you have all these like big pharma companies that are like, oh well, we'll sell you something to deal with you eating fast food. Like it's so weird to see how all this, it's a giant circle of like we're in the middle. And then this person is selling us this. And then because we're buying this, then we actually have to get this because it protects us. But then us being protected from this means I actually also have to get this. And it's like they've encircled us with like, if you live in this lifestyle, you have to participate in this or fear of death, right? And that's like the ultimatum that they put out there is like, you could die, right? So
and
it's
it
like,
makes you want to become so self-sufficient. Like, just take care of all those things on your own and not have to worry about it.
Because like they sell you fast food, but then they sell, what's that? The thing that everyone's taking.
Ozempic.
Yeah. They sell you fast food, but then they sell you Ozempic, but then they sell you the Cosmo magazine because the chick's hot on the magazine, right? And it makes you want to take the Ozempic. But then you see the skinny person eating Taco Bell during the Super Bowl.
Right.
And then you go back to that, right? But then at the same time, you're like, oh, well, this person has a Whoop on, right? It's going to help them track their calories. So I'm going to get that so I can see how much McDonald's I've been having all day. It's a circle. And a lot of people are just so bought in to like watching everybody. But at the end of the day, it's all these companies colluding and being like, how can we make money off of you making money?
Companies colluding, like even all the fad diets that have been going on since like before the 90s.
Every 2 years there's a new diet
and they all contradict each other.
Yeah.
And it's always like whatever industry is really in control over that, somehow the science will just say that's the healthy thing.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to think of what a good example is, but I want to say like when cereal with like the Kellogg brothers, when they invented that, like their industry paid for a whole bunch of propaganda and all this whatever. So then like cereal became the staple for breakfast. Like, and it got, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You could also see it with supplements too.
Yeah.
Like I thought about this conspiracy for a while, but I think that, I mean, you could, this is where this conspiracy theory comes from. So the chips companies that sell chips, so like Lay's chips. So you have the store brand. So like, let's say it's HEB. You have the store brand HEB chips, and then you have the Lay's brand chips. The HEB chips are the lowest quality of the same batch of the Lay's chips. So I found that out when I used to work at Kroger. So basically, like the Frito-Lay people were telling me like that's like why because I was always like, why do you guys sell the same product? Like what's the difference? And they were like, that's the difference. So the same thing with cereal, right? So it's like, where was I going? So the idea that, anyway, the idea that these companies like play off each other is like insane.
Yeah. I
Gosh,
mean,
I was like,
you were so close. It's like
what was I saying?
So like Kellogg, but then the store brand of like, Kroger brand generic cereal that's like Frosted Flakes, but it's not.
Yeah, but it's the same. I forgot where I was going with that, dude. Man,
that happens to me so often. I hate that feeling.
Anyway,
it's always tough.
If it comes back, I'll mention something. But at the end of the day, it's crazy to see the companies doing that. Like, supplements.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There you go.
Okay, so this is the conspiracy that I have. So research is always coming out of like what different supplements do our bodies absorb, right? Because there's so much out there in like natural fruits and vegetables. So there's always these supplements coming out. My take is that they have one parent company that has, so imagine just a giant pile of vitamin D, right? And they're like, okay, we just figured out a way to make this more absorbent in the human body. So we're going to have all these supplement companies buy this new vitamin D. I'm using vitamin D as an example. I'm not saying this is what's happening currently, but they have this vitamin D, right? And then they sell, and that's the new thing, right? So, everyone's taking vitamin D. So what was it 5 years ago? It was collagen, right? And then after collagen, or before that was vitamin C, right? So then it was collagen, and then it went to creatine, and after creatine, it went to really big on whey protein, and like
Oh, then whey is not the right type of protein.
Right. So then it goes to so COVID happens, and then zinc and vitamin B, and then what's the other one? Magnesium, right?
Yeah,
So then
yeah.
so then those were the big ones, right? And then now it's like it was like peptides, and then after peptides it's like the cow one. I forget what it's called. It's not it's starts with a C. But I forget. But
let's not forget the what's it called? The sea moss.
Yeah, it's like, how come it's not all of these at one time and they all come in waves, right? And I think it's because they make one supply and then they say, okay, well, we'll continue a super small supply for the people who are hooked on this, but then the supply wore down, so now we fill it with a new supply, and that's what everyone's advertising, right? And then that goes down. So it's like, for me, I think that's like so interesting. And like, in my opinion, it's a conspiracy, because why is every supplement company all competing on the same thing? Because like, it's like, oh, well, collagen, helps with your hair. It's like, it's always helped with your hair. It's in everything that you eat that's a natural, like if it's a animal, like there's going to be collagen in it that you eat. But it's like it's such an insane marketing tactic to go and like do every single, like, so meat, right? If you go and find out every single thing that's in meat, and then you just break them up and you say, we're going to start telling people to supplement all of these things.
Yeah.
But if you eat meat, you already get that.
Right.
So it's like, I think it's the biggest conspiracy, and it happened. And I think it's going to start happening a lot more, especially with the Make America Healthy Again. But it's like, these companies are finding out ways to supplement things people don't need because they eat them in their regular meals. But it's also like, if you get people on supplements, right, because they're eating crap food,
right,
and then you have to make them supplement, then they're going to be hooked. And these big companies, these big parent pharma companies, are now having you hooked on these supplements, because if the grid crashes,
and that's extra cost. That's like, you could just get the food that has the supplements in there, and that's
correct.
one cost. Now you're getting the food that costs the same without that, or it still has it in there, but you're hooked on this extra or sold on it.
Because you have all these people who are celebrities endorsing these things, and
I can't stand that whole Ozempic thing. It's a little bit old news, but it's not at the same time. It's like really rampant right now. It's still going on, and there's like 12 different options of flavors of Ozempic that you could pick from.
Is it diabetes medicine, or what's
no, man? It's just a shot that you take.
Because Ozempic's the weight loss is a byproduct of it, but it's not the intended product, right?
It's some sort of drug that increases your metabolism, but to a standard that your body probably, it's really harsh on your system,
Because I've heard it makes you not hungry, so it almost makes you like kind of starve yourself. But
it for sure does that.
Yeah, that's crazy though.
Well, yeah, it probably does that too, where it makes you not quite as hungry, but
yeah, because that would make sense. But isn't that weird to think about? Like, I've always thought, because I used to be super big into weightlifting, and you have like, when you get in, you're like, okay, what's gonna help me lift better? And then
a lot of that,
and then you go down the rabbit hole of like, well, I can take this and this. And for me, it's so dumb, because it's like, if you just eat good and you eat a lot and it's a lot of meat, you're just gonna get the same thing, kind of like you were saying. Instead of just buying everything, just eat what it has in it, right? But then the amount of things that you'd get hooked onto, and it was almost like the drug in and of itself of like, oh, it's like when the iPhone came out. Well, I have an iPhone. I want to have the iPhone. So if you're around a lifting community, you're like, oh, well, I want to be taking the same stuff they're taking.
Oh yeah, this guy's doing crazy stuff. I want to, lift just like him.
Yeah, and nowadays for the male generation, it's like, just get on TRT.
Yeah.
Get on tests.
That's like step one, right?
Yeah, and it's crazy like that. All this is just happening because you have people out there who are paid a crap ton of money, and then the next thing is going to be stem cells. And it's just going to keep going.
People are doing all sorts of stuff like that. And, it's this crazy, like, it's very vain and like self-interested, this sort of, because it used to be like self-improvement.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's human. But I don't know, it started to be like very like Instagram focused and outward projection. It's not about like, oh, I want to be healthy so I feel better and my life is easier. Yeah. It's like, I want to get jacked so everybody thinks I'm jacked on the internet, and all this crazy mentality. But it's like, that's not practical at all. Like you were just saying, you know, what if you just eat the food that actually has all this stuff instead of taking the supplements instead? That's how I feel about like this powerlifting, like, you know, I don't know what to call this new generation of it, but if they would just, instead of taking supplements and, or not even supplements, you know, whatever they're taking, hormones and all that, and just lifting, what if you did like, you know, and people take stuff in jujitsu too, but if they just did something more practical, that's like, okay, why would somebody want to get jacked in the first place? You know, maybe
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Is it to maybe help you in a fight, or, you know, there's like things that's a practical skill that comes from it. People are getting big just to get big nowadays. And like, that's the dumbest thing. You're getting big in the wrong areas in a very unpractical way. And you don't have good standards for like real non-gym movements, if that makes sense. You know?
I think there's probably under 20% of people actually do lifting because they're involved in sports. But a lot of those 20% probably realize like this is really good for your health if you're constantly lifting. But the other percentage, I think, is like a very egotistical mindset of, if I'm at a party and I had to take my shirt off,
it's always that,
and I look jacked, that I could bang every chick in this. It's literally that. It's literally just this ego thing. Because you go to the gym and you see these dudes flexing in the mirror. Like you could, I mean, I've gone to the gym my whole life, and you see people who are under 100 pounds, skinny as like a wall, right? And it's like these skinny dudes, and they're flexing because they're trying to see their progress, because they're envisioning in their head, if I go to this party and take my shirt off, I'm going to look like this, right? And then you see them, it's like almost embarrassing, right? Because they look like absolutely nothing flexing. And then you go all the way up and you see the guy who's at his pinnacle doing the same exact thing, and he's still flexing. Hey, do I look good today? Oh, I'm getting a little tubby, you know, or I need to start. And that is literally the track of like, I think a lot of those people, especially girls, because girls want to be able to wear the butt cheek leggings, right? Where their butt's out. And even though they say, I don't want people looking at me, it's like, that's why you're doing it. That's why you're in the gym wearing no clothing, is because you want to be looked at just like a guy is in the gym because he wants to be looked at. Like a lot of these people, if they would just be honest about it and just say, hey, I'm doing this because I am so egotistical that this is the only thing I have to live for right now, is just to look good. Like, that's why they're all in there. That's why they're all doing it. Like I said,
like, that's okay.
There's 20% that are doing it for the right reasons, and they're wearing their baggy clothes. They don't care. They're mismatched clothes. They look ugly because they're working out and they know they're in there to work. But then you got girls in there who, you know, have the $400 outfit with and looking cute, and they're wearing a full face of makeup. Or you have the dudes in there and their hair's slicked back and they got all like the super expensive shoes on and stuff. And it's all just an ego flex. Is just like all they like. It'd be hard to wake up every single day and be like, I just look so good. Like every single day, that's all that they can think about. And it's like, but I think that starts with the supplements, right? Is like, you have to get into that game, and these supplement companies know, or the pharma company, the big parent company knows this person is going to be egotistical and they want themselves to look good. And we need to give them stuff to keep them egotistical. And then that's where you have Lululemon come in, you have all these companies come in, and I don't think there's anything wrong with any of these things individually, but like people have to understand there's a reason why they were invented, and it was to fuel your ego. So that way you can look good in the gym.
Yeah, but I think it's so many things like that.
I'm guilty of it too. Like, I'm not saying
everybody is, because there's so much of it going on nowadays. Like you can't avoid it. You know, in some sort of way, it's like, because you have to wear clothes, every time you buy clothes, you're going to pick clothes that you think you're going to look good in. And so it's like, everybody does this on a base level, but it definitely reaches a point where it's like, you have to check your ego, and then you have to check like your trajectory. Because, you know, people get so caught in this ego thing. It's like, okay, you wanted to look good for whatever, but for such a fickle goal, right? Yeah. It's like, somebody that did that at like 20, if they're still in that same mindset and they're in their peak form as far as, you know, progress, but they're 40 in the gym flexing in that mirror and next to that 20-year-old that just started, same mentality. And the only thing they have is like gym pole, you know, I would much rather learn a skill that's physical. Like that's the whole thing, whether it's jujitsu or, I'd rather just go on a hike and truck around in like some plates or something, right?
Yeah.
Like just I don't know. It seems more real. Like, climbing trees and stuff is different than, or climbing a mountain for real is different than doing that little rock wall climb.
Yeah.
Right. Like the amount of like, you don't really test yourself in any of those things, right? Yeah. You might be able to, after you took your pre-workout and all your different stuff, like hit this max. Yeah, sure. But can you consistently do that under different, circumstances? Probably not. Like you're going to be so bothered by your finger positioning on a bar, you get in that like tedious mentality and you're not adaptive anymore. It's like it slows down everything. There's balance when it comes to everything.
And it's weird too to think about. It used to be, okay, I'm going to fuel my ego by lifting. But now it's like, I also have to take testosterone because I don't want to have to work as hard to get my goal, right? So it used to be like there was a lot of hard work involved with your ego, and it was an even bigger ego flex because you conquered something that nobody else does, right? Like you got huge just based off of waking up and eating right and you just lifting. But now it's like, I don't even want to work hard to go and achieve those. I'm just going to take stuff to enhance my body.
Well, everybody else is doing it and it seems so normal. That's why they're just willing to do it now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I think if your ego was the reason that you got big, like as you get bigger, your ego gets bigger too. And you end up just being like, that insecurity is really what grows.
Yeah.
And so if you just have like a big button, that's your insecurity, that if somebody pokes that button, like you really feel it.
Yeah.
You're more vulnerable than somebody that didn't let their ego get out. They might not be the biggest guy in the gym. They're not there for all that type of stuff. They're literally just working out. But if their ego's in check, like under pressure and real scrutiny, like they're more solid, like their character, their persona, you know what I mean? You can see how fragile some of these, like, whether it's like, what's that dude? Liver King.
Yeah.
It's like you can clearly see that guy's insecure. That's the drive for all this stuff. And now he's so far deep into it. That's just what he's left being. And it's like,
yeah, that's why he lied about it.
That's awful.
Is because it was his ego. He had a decision. I could be honest or I could feel my ego. And that's why he lied about it for so long. And then what did he do? He played the victim when he had to, he basically, yeah. So it's weird. Also something else, but regarding the gym, like on the same aspect of ego, they're making the machines easier and they're like on the weights where it says like what you're lifting. Do you even know if that's how much it is?
Right.
So it's like at the end of the day, you could make people feel like they're lifting a lot or stuff like that without, cause I trust my seatbelt when I get in my car.
Right.
But like when I go to the gym, I don't know for a fact that like that weight is 30 pounds or if that weight is 15 pounds. I'm just assuming that they didn't lie about that. But like on all the machines and all the free weights, like they could easily be lying about all those weights. Cause the only person that's going to know if it's real or not is like an Olympic powerlifter, someone who's training on like legit standards. But these people who go in the gym, they could see this machine. Like there's machines where I've done, it's like a tricep machine, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's 80 pounds. And then I go and do an actual movement with a free weights or something. And I'm like, I can't even get to 40 pounds, you know? And it's one of those things where it's like, if they use these physics and machines to feel your ego and be like, oh, I'm strong. Oh, I'm going to keep coming back because I'm strong. It's like all these.
You're right though.
Oh yeah. But like all these little things that they throw just to keep increasing your ego. And I mean, not even just supplements and gym. You could look at every single aspect of life and it's the same thing. You could look at it from computers. You know, if you're like, oh, I have to bring my computer to work. You know, I want the nicest computer and nicest headphones because I want people to look at me and look at how well I'm doing because this is a direct reflection of me, like cars.
What car do you drive?
Literally. Yeah. So it's, but the funny thing, I mean, you could look at it with computers, with cars, like microchips. It makes me think
of that clip of the business card. Was it like American Psycho or something maybe? But what's the guy that plays him? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
Christian Bale.
Yeah. Like the actual movie, right? I don't know his name. Yeah.
In the movie though, yeah, you know, you're so serious looking at that business card and like, oh, you know, this, it means so much. Like everybody's judging everybody. and nobody ever really like gives you the fair review, right? Everybody's
Yeah.
going to give you the shittiest version of whatever they
Yeah.
perceive. So like to a point, it is important in modern society to give good impressions, but getting wrapped up in the impression, because that's for people that you don't know.
Yeah.
For people that you actually interact with, we don't care about that at all. We want solid, loyalty. Is your head screwed on? Do you have something else, a real drive?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's also, I mean, it's a good trap because it's a mind trap in the sense of they got you fully invested in this one thing and that's all you have. And that's what you base your truth in your life around. And if it collapses, like you got nowhere else to go but them, right? Like if you, it's just like where you put your money, right? It's like where your money is, your heart is also. So it's like if you put your money towards this one thing your whole life and it fails, you don't know where else to go. And it's almost like that's the trap, is like you're just cattle. You're just exactly where they want you and they're just going to move you to a different feeding pasture. Here's a new supplement. Here's a new clothing line, right? Like there's a reason that they pay professional actors and people who are influencers money to advertise, is because they want you to keep moving, because they know if they plateau you, you could hop out of the matrix. You could realize. So they have to keep putting you in a different pasture in a circle. So that way you never realize that you have been a cattle this whole time.
So isn't that like the ultimate trick, is to just know you're in a little psyop, know you're in a simulation, the matrix, whatever it is, but don't let that be the end all be all. Like you're so focused on that, or you need to change that. It's like go with the flow. Just know you're in the flow and act accordingly. Sort of like, right now it's like we can be in a psyop with what's going on in the country, but okay, let's go the right direction, and then I'll change my mind of or about how I feel about things later on. And it's like I think people get so trapped up in, okay, I either need to never find the truth because that's just going to be tedious and I'll always have to hold on to it, or always hold on to this truth. And it's like, it's not true, man. I think there's sort of something where like people use the analogy of waking up a lot of the time. That's where the whole woke thing came from. And that used to be a good term. Yeah. Christian band, by the way.
Skillet, right?
Oh, no, Evanescence?
Yeah, Evanescence, yeah.
But like just being woke used to be a good thing, and it means you're aware and all this. Dang, I almost forgot where I was going now.
You're good. That's the worst feeling, by the way.
It is. But just that whole, what was I saying about waking up?
Yeah, the woke ideology.
Oh man,
dude, it sucks. It's not even fair. It's like it was just there.
At least it wasn't just me. Like,
but like ultimately, you were talking about the trap, and I think that the trap is like you are your own God. Like it's about you. It's about self. Yeah. And that's what it's about, right? Like you can go back to, I'm just going to quote the Bible real quick.
Yeah,
but like
ahead.
In Genesis, I believe it's chapter 3, when the serpent goes to Eve and he says, why can't you eat that from the tree? And she's like, I was told not to. And he's like, no, you weren't told not to. You just, anyway. So for me, it's like, that's the ultimate like thing, is like, think about yourself. Don't think about the truth or the rules or anything like that, right? The whole idea is like, that's the biggest lie, is like, it's you. And that's why we saw like during like the COVID thing and the pronouns thing and all that stuff, like it was about you. And it was like this culmination that was like coming in from the past 20 years of like focusing. And now you see people are like backing out and like, oh no, family matters. Oh no, community matters. Like it's not about me. What?
Family matters?
No. But it's interesting because that's where it culminated, right? And and going back to like everything we were talking about, I think people it's this giant conspiracy just to get you to care about yourself. And it's so dumb because like at the end of the day, the person, the giant celebrity that you're watching, they just care about themselves. It's a giant pyramid scheme. Oh, yeah. Like the guy that's at the top of the biggest pharma company, he just cares about himself. He's doing all this to make it. So at the end of the day, it's just this giant conspiracy pyramid scheme that everyone's just trying to run this, what people are saying, simulated race where they're all caring about each other.
Yeah.
Or caring about
there's
themselves.
a lot of that. Well, there's a lot of pretending to care about each other because we only care about ourselves, right?
Yeah. So it's such
I remembered what it was though. It was about everybody being woke. It's like people think it's like, okay, you're woke, you wake up to the truth, and stop saying woke because it's co-opted. But when you wake up to the truth, people think it's like, okay, you're just forever awakened to that. Yeah. It's like that is not at all how it happens. You need to like, if you talk to anybody that's been like religious throughout their life, they'd probably agree too. Of like, you go through phases of things. Like you become aware of truths, and then you sort of go to sleep on these things. And it's like, we go to sleep on these things to allow ourselves to live in a world. Like when you know the truth and what is right, but the world is wrong, it's like a burden to hold on to that. So you let yourself go to sleep. You forget things, you deal with stuff.
Oh, I thought you meant like that night. I see what you're saying.
No, okay. Asleep from the truth. You just sort of let these things go, but you sort of retain them in a part of your head to where at any moment when something makes you feel a certain way, you go, let me dig that. Oh yeah, you know what? I actually know this, and this is how I feel about that because I think a certain type of way. But we can, let ourselves live in this world where like truths are not comfortable to share. And it's easier for us to live, but you go through sort of like ups and downs of waking up and then, okay, I got my knowledge of what that is. How can I sort of go back into this dumb way of living? And it's like you integrate your ideas a little bit every time you do it. You let go of them, but it's like you sort of maybe make a step every up and down of like learning more of the truth, and then just being dumb and eating bad food and watching entertainment. It's like that balance there of going between both states though is the superpower, because it gives you mobility that like if you're the holiest person ever and you're going to stand, in a holy spot and be the priest forever. It's like everybody knows you're there. You're stuck there. You can't do anything. You're not going to have any innovation. You almost just have to be a student, and you just learned everything verbatim from somebody else. You didn't interact with the world at all, right?
Yeah, because if you base, there's a lot of people that do that. If they base their, I don't want to say morality, but they base their life around, I've achieved peak, right? Like Tom Cruise and Scientology, right? Like, oh, I've achieved it. Now they are stuck in that idea of I am perfect. I have to continue to be perfect because I got here based on my own will, right? And that's like, that ultimately is the trap, like that we were talking about, is like these people that, there's the struggle in life. Like life's a struggle. Like life is an up and down. And then you have these people who make it to the top, and it's like outwardly they look good, but inwardly they're stuck in this like egotistical frenzy of like, they're hyper aware of every single thing that they're doing because they're like, I have to be this perfect specimen at the top. But eventually that all crumbles.
Well, okay, so I suppose it's sort of a position that they're almost forced into, because if you become sort of aware of a truth, that truth sort of dictates all. It's like you abandon everything else for that truth. And so maybe their truth is like, hey, if I do this sort of thing, I can be successful. And so they're aware of that, but it's like if somebody else is propping that up to be the truth for them, it's like they're dependent on whoever's propping that up, right? Like they fall victim to the trap. It's like perspective. You have to be able to, you literally have to be, the up and the down. You have to be, and you go through the middle to get there, right? You have to see both sides of the spectrum to really have a valid opinion on things. But what people do instead is, my life was this one way. Now I've been open to a truth. And so that becomes the only thing that's true now, and they go against everything from before. So people get radicalized really quickly, where they go, I don't know, it's a good example.
COVID.
But like, yeah, I guess COVID. But like when people were believing that, they got radicalized to all this silly nonsense about the science without researching it. It's like that became the truth. And so then they're cutting down real truth from that manipulation. But like, I feel like somebody that was against it the entire time, like I didn't, I wasn't feeling all that. They like I have a different perspective from somebody that thought that way, realized they got manipulated, and now thinks like I do. Right?
Yeah.
They truly have seen something that I wasn't seeing because I didn't have that perspective.
Yeah, because they were in it. They like believed it.
Yeah,
and they got out. Yeah,
100%. And yeah, I think people. It's such a trap to like, if you, I don't know, to get co-opted into an idea set and then just that's the only truth, nothing else exists. Kind of shit on everything altogether, and it's very like manipulative to everything else, and it's not fair, you know.
Yeah, and I think based on everything we've been talking about, it's going to be an interesting next 4 or 5 months to see everything get broken down, because ultimately what we were just talking about was the structure that it has been for the past 30, 40 years. And now you have a president and a group of people that he's, you know, his appointees who are now going to challenge that whole entire structure. And that's going to be a show to watch, because like, I can't imagine like the frenzy that's going on behind the scenes. Because there's probably a lot of people like, is this really going to happen? And then there's a lot of people that are like, this is happening. Like, how do we deal with this? Because but that's also the scary thing for them, is because they've been doing this for so long. Do they have a contingency plan? Because, I mean, you look at big picture, the United States didn't have a contingency plan for a global outbreak, right? So it's like, do these companies have contingency plans for Trump coming in and ruining everything that they've been doing, trying to get money? So it's like, it's interesting. I could see him being successful because a lot of these companies probably don't have a contingency plan of how to maneuver, because their whole thing right now is, oh, just sue. It's like, but at the end of the day, you have to pay money for lawyers to sue. So it's like, you can't, that's not just a solution. It's like, so I think a lot of people are going to give up. I mean, the mayor of New York, Adams or whatever, I think he's going to run for Republican in like 2026. No shot. Yeah, it came out like today that he might.
That's a genius move though.
Yeah, but like that's what I think people are going to do. People are going to start realizing, I am not on the winning team and there's no way to win, so I'm just going to join the other side. Because he's like, at the end of the day, Tulsi Gabbard, Democrat, right? I don't agree.
Is Chris Christie a Democrat?
Boy, I have no idea. Probably. But like, Elon used to be one. Trump used to be one. Like all these people that I don't agree with at all used to be Democrats, but now they're Republicans because they realize that logic is winning in the end. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are going to start deciding, okay, well, I can't win through the law, and I might as well just join the winning team.
I think that's why everybody was a Democrat to start with. That was the winning team at a certain point, like during Clinton's presidency.
It was Reagan, and then it shifted, right?
Yeah, for sure. And then, well, no, so I suppose we had Bush.
But like, it wasn't that. It was close.
Like the first Bush, I mean.
He almost, before
Clinton.
Yeah, my bad, yeah.
And then there was...
So it fell off because it went...
Bush 2.
Did it go Reagan?
My understanding is Reagan, Bush.
Yeah.
Clinton, Bush.
Yeah, so it was like
Obama.
It like dropped off, went to Clinton, and then immediately went back to Bush, and then it went Obama, and then it like went on Obama until Trump came in. So yeah, if you think about it, it's like pretty consistent.
It is.
That's almost, really weird to think about.
Sometimes you'll get some where it's like, okay, back to like Reagan and Bush right there, but it for the most part flip flops back and forth.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, Obama gets 2 terms, so that's almost like to make up for that same back-to-back Republic. You know what I mean? It all sort of balances out, though.
Yeah, that's weird. That's so weird, dude.
Yeah, but what's crazy is like, then you see the Bushes and the Obamas and and the Clintons and like they all sort of like they have dinner, they're friends, they're all associated together. And like even
are they part of that club?
The club, absolutely, they're all part of the club.
But wait, what are they part of that Alex Jones thing? What's it called?
Oh, the
are they part of that?
The Bohemian Grove.
Yeah. Is that politics or is that a different?
It's sort of like truthfully, it's just graduates, I believe, from Harvard and Yale only. But you either are a politician or you're like some sort of executive. Yeah.
Okay, so I wasn't sure if because it makes sense why they all hang out now, and I'm like,
They all hang out. Yeah, it's crazy that yeah, once they're not like in direct conflict with each other, they hang out and they do weird business dealings behind the scenes, and like it's clearly, it's not what they make it seem like, that's for sure. But it bothers me because there's so many, I don't know, like just ways that they after the fact manipulate us. I hate it. Like Obama specifically is the one because that was like the first presidency that I really got to see. And what he was saying then has nothing to do with what, like, his attitude is so different that he contradicts things. He honestly,
Biden did the same thing.
by perspective, he might as well have been like George W. Bush part 2.
Yeah.
He was bombing Gaza and like, going into Syria and like doing all these crazy things that seem super Republican by today's standards.
Oh yeah.
And to come full circle. And then they're super cool with like, the Bushes and the Obamas are like super tight apparently after that. But I don't know, just to let people get so invested in these ideas and then completely betray them and act like something else is crazy.
Yeah. It's also something I've wanted to research personally and kind of shed light on when I found the details. But at what point did they start getting paid off? Because a lot of people, I mean,
from the start, that's my bet.
Well, you can see Obama came in and was very much with the times. Like he didn't shake up too much stuff. Like people could say, oh, he was obviously elected Democrat, that he was the first black president, but
the most controversial thing he did was legalize gay marriage.
But like he also was against that when he was a senator. So it's like he was, like you were saying, Bush 2.0, right?
Sort of.
But then he comes in and he makes a decision like that, right? That's like a huge monumental decision. So it's like, I wonder at what point they keep the status quo, because Trump obviously he breaks the scale, right? Mm-hmm. He's his own thing. But like the regular politicians, it's almost like some event happens and then they change and they get bought from something.
I think it's just like you get to a certain level. All right, first of all, I think college has a lot to do with these universities.
Yeah, definitely.
Of course, we know there's fraternities, and then fraternities house secret societies, and there's a lot of evidence of that. And then we know that people are chosen from them to be in specific roles and situations, and it's like you might only get hired at a company because you went to Brown or Yale or wherever. And it seems to be like a sort of code that I feel like it's literally since then. It's like you're tied in to the laws of whoever's governing you, like whatever society you're part of, but you just don't have the power yet. So it's like you get on a trajectory. They'll give you the tools, your diploma, your all that stuff. It's a degree. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
I was about to say. That doesn't sound right. They'll give you your degree, the tools, a network of people, to put you in a position of power intentionally. And then when you are, then I feel like they grab the reins at a certain point. But you were bought since you went to college, I think.
Yeah, which is a disturbing thing to think of, is if everything that's happening is just stupid side bets that they all made in college and they're like on this stupid fraternity. Like if they were all Masons essentially and they were like, oh, it's your turn now, man. What are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to do this. Like that'd be disturbing if like we found out that everything's just run off secret societies.
Well, I mean, I believe that to be
like
75% of the truth.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, like, as humans, a lot of us are stupid. Like a lot of people are not like geniuses, right? So it would be disturbing to be like everything's just decided in secret societies amongst people who aren't smart. They just got there because their daddy paid their way.
It is, but it's like that's not the whole story either. It's much darker than that because there's like what's public knowledge is hazing, right? Like, and that maybe blurs the line sometimes between sexual harassment and all this type of stuff, right? Yeah. And then we also know about like elites and like the pedophile rings and all this type of stuff. Yeah. There's a clear culture of wickedness, and I don't know whether it's for embarrassment purposes or some sort of desire from the other people. I don't know what it is exactly, but there's something darker there. And then like those same societies, like the people that go to that Bohemian Grove, there's that huge statue, that owl statue.
Oh, yeah.
That's the owl god Moloch.
Yeah, we talked about this last time.
They worship. Hillary Clinton has emails that she wrote to Jeffrey Epstein. 100% verified. I'm going to sacrifice a chicken to Moloch in my backyard tonight. Like, they talk about this. Yeah. They're very, like, whatever that type of stuff is, I don't know whether they're making it up, reading it out of a book, and just because the book says it, they're going to do some wicked stuff. But, to me, they're clearly controlling, like you were saying, it takes so much to get, there's two levels. There's nothing, and then there's elite. And they're the deciding factor on who gets the thing that allows you to be elite.
And that also could be why they were so mad at Trump, was because if the government political structure was based off of secret society, and you get appointed based on your rank in the secret society, like you are a high-ranking official in the secret society, therefore you are guaranteed a place, a president, vice president, secretary, whatever it is. And then you have this guy Trump who comes in and just like erases all this history of how you guys did business.
I think ultimately, here's how I would justify it. One, I think Trump initially would have been from one of those same societies from, he went to college in Pennsylvania. I don't know what school that was, but, he's clearly in that same ring. He's cut from that cloth. His uncle was in the CIA. Like, there's a lot of government interest in his family from the get-go. So I think he comes from that cloth, I guess, but he's sort of maybe broken free from that, or just how, like, in a very Rand Paul way, where he'll do a filibuster and, like, he doesn't care
yeah,
like, and he's only allowed to do that because he's, like, sits in that seat. And so I think Trump is, maybe he started out that same way. He's part of their club, but he's going to use his access in the club to maybe do something that the rest of them didn't like. But he's just like you were talking about that Big Brother show. He knew how to play the game.
Yeah.
And so as long as you know how, that's exactly how all this works. If you know how to play the game, you can sort of get through, but you have to really watch your back. And so, i.e. all the assassination attempts.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's 50-50 to me, whether he's kind of going against them, or whether he's just really handling the other half of what they want to happen, Yeah. Because they sort of, like, you need somebody to be the villain if you're going to be the hero, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So, like, it's also true. The fact that, like, no disrespect, Trump is not, like, the first choice. If you didn't know anybody in the world and you just had to imagine who would be the savior of America, what would that look like? Like, Trump is not the person that you would envision, right? Like, so the fact that that's our guy, like, that is what we have. It shows a lot about, like, how bad everything really is.
Yeah, I think the patriotism of a lot of people who saw his rights infringed really ignited people getting behind him, because you had this businessman, right? So people who are who are patriotic, love the idea of capitalism, right? So they saw a capitalist businessman going up against the government to try to get elected. So people were like, okay, I'll buy that, because, I support the fundamentals of capitalism, right? And then you see what he goes through, right? You see them picking apart his life, government overreach, all this stuff that people who are patriots don't like. So then they go and they even more support. But then he gets back in, right? And runs again after he gets the 4 years of, like, everybody, like, all the judges and everybody getting sent against him, right? Now people are, like, Uber for him, because they're like, wow, we got to watch somebody get persecuted by the government, and so we all want to vote for him. I think that's kind of like what happened.
I think that's probably what happened, but there's also the possibility that's, like, that's what they want you to think, like, you know what I mean? Of like, I genuinely think that's the truth, but it's also so easy because literally everything else is a psyop, everything else is fake. It's so easy. It's like, it's probably statistically, if you remove that human element, statistically more likely that, Trump is just, corrupting all of us and whatever. Like, that would make sense. Like, the odds would say that's what a human would do in that situation. But that human element, and you can sort of feel the spirit and the progress and, like, I don't know. It feels like we're moving into the next chapter of humanity. Like I feel like you just can't argue with that. It's just a gut feeling, but like I feel like people just know.
Yeah. That's crazy though. I've had that thought whenever I voted. I mean, every time I vote.
Let's do this.
Yeah. Every time I've voted, I've been like, I could be wrong. Like this could, somebody could get into office. And
I mean, you could have voted for Kamala, so.
You know what's also disturbing to think about? So obviously we just got to witness all the confirmations happen and stuff. Marco Rubio got fully sent through. Nobody voted against him. Not one Democrat voted against him. And I thought that was very interesting. I'm like, what's so special about Marco Rubio besides, I think he used to be a senator, but Tulsi Gabbard, had all the Democrats vote against her, and she used to be a Democrat. RFK used to be a Democrat, and he had all the Democrats vote against him. You had Pam Bondi, sure, some Democrats might have voted for it, or, all these people, but like you have Marco Rubio, who everybody voted for. And when I saw that he had 99 votes in favor of him being Secretary of State, I was like, this guy's super powerful. He knows something. How does he get through with 100% yes votes from both sides of the aisle? Like both sides of the aisle are so split fundamentally right now that I'm like,
I don't know if that's ever really happened.
It's probably happened, unless it's like a formality that they're like, hey, the first vote we always let go through unanimously to make it look like we're all unified, some BS like that. But like when I saw that, I'm like, he has to be some sort of like set, like a CIA asset or somebody who's like an uber genius that they were like, they all went behind doors into some skiff and they're like, hey, this guy is like our guy that we all know needs to be in there. So we're all going to vote for him because he's the guy who's Secretary of State. He's the representative for the United States to every other country. Like he's in charge of representing the United States, like to everywhere else. So it's like, that's pretty powerful.
Do you think it's likely that just like the sports can be scripted? Like, because they show every time the Senate meets, like, it's on, what is it, C-SPAN?
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Like they show all that stuff live on TV. It's sort of like a reality TV, politics, real life, you know? And what are the odds that like they're all just reading off scripts the entire time anyway? Like even their controversy with each other, even, it was in Bernie's script to get upset with RFK and, lose his words. And like, it could be that detailed where literally all of those people, there's no such thing as a genuine politician.
I mean, you could look
They're
at
all just actors.
Look what Joe Biden did, right? You'd see him reading off his scripts and he would mess up and he would read the part that says like applause or applaud or point to such and such. Like you could easily see that's a very true thing. I mean, there's a lot of stuff too that I'm like, these people, I mean, I know Elon talked about it because they're going to start investigating the people who make millions of dollars in the Senate and the House and stuff like that. Because it's like, you shouldn't be worth this much money. But it's like, these people have apparently such a busy job that they should be so busy. It's like, there's no way they get all this stuff done. Like, to me, it's almost like it's some AI software that's programming how everyone should act. And then they just go and act it out.
And then for them to make all that money on top of what all that stuff that they're like, it doesn't seem like they really could. And the amount of stuff that they actually get done, they take so long and they they just postpone stuff and like, oh, we're supposed to meet, but you know what? Like they can postpone things to purposely throw Trump off, and it's like the power to just do that and that they just all decide to do it. And it's not even like a proper vote that when they do that, it's just like, oh, we're postponing the vote. It's like, you need to vote on that.
That's your job. Yeah. You're
Show
there to
up
vote.
and vote if we're going to postpone next time.
Yeah.
At least,
Yeah. I mean, I remember during COVID, Pelosi was the Speaker of the House and she basically said, oh, we're going to allow proxy votes. So basically if you weren't there in person, you could send somebody to go vote for you. So it's like an unelected person is going in and like voting for you. Like it was crazy. I don't know.
I would love to, you were talking about like, oh, somebody was saying how many of you guys have voted under the influence and, they're all like alcoholics, liars.
Yeah.
terrible people, really. And it's tough because I feel like, yeah, you probably have to be an alcoholic to really be in that type of
numbing.
environment.
You have to numb yourself.
Yeah,
because
somehow.
if you're actually doing that job, because the whole point is it's supposed to be civil service. Like you're supposed to be working yourself to death for the betterment of the people who you represent. Like you're supposed to be putting yourself like on that pedestal as a sacrifice in the sense of like, I'm going to be bogged down for 4 years or however long it is that they're in office, 2 years. I'm going to bog myself down so that way you could be successful in your life. But like the more we look at it is like all you guys are going to parties, you guys are showing up to vote, or you guys have a really good excuse not to show up to vote. You know, you have Fetterman showing up in like sweat outfit just because it's like whatever. Like at the end of the day, all these people are just there they have power now. Like they're just there. And it makes sense if they're all reading off a script because we wouldn't know any better.
Well, it's like, yeah, we wouldn't know any better. And why wouldn't it be a script? Because you almost can't let them candidly hash it out like publicly like that. It's just not going to work. Like the things that would really be said, you know what I mean? It's so structured and concise when they bring it up. And then their arguments are like, okay, let me break down everything that you put up and build up my argument that has to be pre-formulated to go against your argument because we knew what we were going to be talking about today.
Exactly. Like whenever they do it before the confirmations, right? They have I think it's a 3-hour window to argue. Like somebody stands up for the person that they're going to be pushing through, and then someone stands up against it. And they do the same thing for the bills that they're about to vote on, right? It's like, do you know the person that's going to be speaking? And did you look at their footnotes? Because when I watched the, who was it? It was one of the third people getting confirmed. Pete Hegseth.
Oh.
Like when I watched the whole thing on C-SPAN, and they had the 3 hours before where they were both like talking about like voting for, like, you should vote for this person or you shouldn't vote for this person. It was so like, it almost looked scripted. It was like really weird. Like because they had a binder that they would read through, and the pages were like huge font, so they couldn't like misread something. And I'm like, if you had like, either you have ghostwriters and you're just reading off the thing, which is ultimately a script.
Yeah.
So it's like you're just, it's like the same person writes both of them and says, okay, both of you go and share these. And then they just did it for entertainment's sake, or just had to do it because that's protocol, and then they go and vote. It's just, none of it's original, because it used to be
theater.
Yeah, it used to be everyone would stand up and actually have a straight up debate. Where now it's just like, I'm going to show up and read because an aide wrote this in the back, because and that person just trusts that aide. Is the aide the one making the rules? And then it leads to the whole scripting thing of like, is all this scripted?
Yeah, it's tough to say 100%, but to some degree, it's for sure controlled, and they talk to each other. Like,
they're all good friends too.
Yeah, they go out to dinners together and then vote against each other, and it's ridiculous. And then they laugh about how much money they made off of, okay, because your side's gonna get a vote, my side's gonna get a vote that goes through. Also, it's like, then I made money over here and you made money over there on some outsider trading, and then we don't really care about what we voted about.
That's the other thing too. If I have $1 million, you have $1 million, and we're both, I'm in favor of selling peanuts, and you're against me selling peanuts, right? If I win, you're still going to invest your money in the peanuts.
Yeah.
It's not like you're gonna be like, nope, not doing that. It's like you're still gonna do it. That's what all of them do. Yeah. Like even if you lose, like, so let's say you're like, oh well, I'm not in favor of peanuts, but I do like almonds. So if you put my almonds in this bill, you can put your peanuts in the bill, and then we'll just invest off of each other. That's all it is. Like, it's all these people 100%. Who just make us think that there's division in every single thing and aspect, but that's the entertainment value. That's how you get people to engage and vote on politics. It's just crazy game.
Dude, what was that? Do you remember that thing that happened in Ohio? Like that train or whatever?
Yeah, the derailed. There was like two, right?
Yeah, I want to say there were like 2, maybe 3 even.
It was the beginning of Biden's presidency.
And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people out there forgot about that entirely, because that thing kind of washed over. But
yeah, chemical spill, right?
Yeah, it was like a chemical spill, and then I don't know, people were real freaked out because this was sort of during COVID too, right?
Yeah,
and so I don't know, there was conflicting stories about what was going on, and it seemed like there was some sort of media manipulation around that whole thing. I still never quite understood exactly what happened, but they made a Netflix movie that people were saying was based off of it. You know, when there's something that happens and then they make a Netflix movie off of it, like it's complete psyop.
Yeah. You know what they just, so on that note, HBO Max just released like today or yesterday that there's a documentary coming out about Luigi, like the guy who killed the CEO shooter.
Oh.
And he hasn't even gone to trial yet.
That's crazy. I thought you were gonna bring up the Diddy documentary they have on there.
Oh no, but like same thing you're talking about. It's like how funny that is that they're just able to pop out a documentary. It's like you're telling me
how do you have all that footage?
How do you have all that research? Like it's literally it's all scripted.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I think it really goes down to like, okay, look, man. You can't trust anything. Look, like,
it just boils down to like, you can't trust anything. Crazy. Yeah, it's like, crazy.
Anything that's on the surface level, just know that's not it. It's at least one layer deeper than
Has to be
just
one
look
layer.
At least one layer deeper. But yeah, you could go down the rabbit hole all day, but just you don't have to. Just know the surface thing is not it. That's the moral of the story.
Yeah.
But like that, we were talking about the CIA and all this shadow government type of stuff. It's like the Men in Black.
Yeah.
There's for sure like a deeper version of the CIA. That's the surface level thing. But there's something better than that, deeper than that, more technology, and they're like super controlling everything.
But people talk about that actually happening in real life, where there'll be 2 people that show up to your door in all black. And
well, see, I think that's sort of with that gang stalking thing I was talking about. I know that sounds crazy. But genuinely, I feel like, whether it's just like, I don't know, I've said crazy things to people, things that sound crazy to people that are really just truths way before like the normal people were aware of this stuff.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you'll just notice, like sometimes I was tweeting out a bunch of stuff at one point, and then it's like, I'm chilling in the park pretty much by myself, and then probably 6 black SUVs, black tinted, all matching the same, pull in, surround the park on all the sides, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking, like, are they gonna come try to like arrest me or something? What is,
Yeah.
But then for probably 20 minutes, they all just stayed. Nobody got out of any one of those vehicles, and then they all just drive off.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is that? It's a control sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I think, people can get visits or just monitoring from different stuff, and it's not too hard to get put on a list for saying something openly, right?
Yeah.
But that gang stalking thing kind of goes into that Men in Black thing, and I feel like it's all sort of tied together a little bit. And as far as the UFO thing, like the stories of the original Men in Black, like before the movies or anything, it was literally like, 2 alien type guys with no faces really would show up and then, wipe your memory.
Yeah.
That's a crazy concept. Did you see that one Matt Damon movie where, what was it called? Like the Correction Bureau or something like that? But basically it was like, there's a bunch of like Men in Black type guys that wear like the type of hat. I don't know. And
fedora?
Sort of like a business type of hat.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? That would go with the suit. And it's like a secret Illuminati bureau of guys that look like the Men in Black, and they basically stop time and change things. Like they're the controlling force of what really goes on.
Oh.
And I don't know. It's just interesting concepts. But
have you seen that? There used to be a TikToker. I think he was Canadian. This was back in like 2020, 2021. He videoed something on top of a mountain in Canada. It was like some sort of giant like walking machine or something like UFO-esque, like government project, like military something. And he was like, he videoed it and was like, what the heck is that? Like, that's crazy. goes back another time, doesn't see it, right? And he's like updating all of his TikTok followers, like, this is crazy, this is crazy. And then and then a car is parked outside his house.
Yeah.
And then he goes missing for like 3 months, right? After he like videos, like he like runs out and the car peels off, drives away, all this stuff. Then he goes missing for 3 months. And then he comes back and he's like brainwashed, like totally.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, guys, I was just crazy. Like, I don't know what I was talking about, blah, blah, blah. And then dies.
I think that's,
I think he died.
did he now?
I think he either committed suicide or he died somehow.
Yeah, brainwashing is for sure a thing.
Yeah.
You can for sure brainwash people. MK Ultra is like old news by now.
You can scare people and you can brainwash people. Like, there's definitely a thing. But anyway,
you can clone people.
Yeah, but it was a weird thing because like what he saw was like a legit thing, and then he just releases all these videos of like, yeah, I was crazy, it was an act, I was faking it, like whatever, and it's like, okay, bro.
I think sometimes like truths are like they almost have to disguise truth sometimes, and so they put it into like a show or something. It's like, oh, it's all made up or whatever. But it's like
UFOs.
If you look at because I'm watching Game of Thrones right now. You played Skyrim,
Yeah.
so it's like all these like there's a lot of things that take place in like medieval times or whatever. But it's like they're all gonna pull from similar resources, I guess, but sometimes you start to wonder and see similarities in things that's like, what is this like there's a commonality between something, but it's like, say, oh, Vikings. It's like, yeah, I know where they're getting that from. I know where they're getting the idea of dragons, and you can trace certain things back, but then certain things, if you find similarities between two things that just seems so similar, and it's like they're maybe named two similar things, and it's like, but they're both supposed to be made up, but they're both clearly based off the same thing. I don't know, you just start to like look into deeper things. And sometimes there's like a perfect example of something that's just put into like a cartoon or whatever. And then they just move on to the next scene like that wasn't a relevant thing.
Yeah.
They'll perfectly break down government control systems, all sorts of different stuff, or like spirituality or anything. And I think it's funny because all of my favorite stuff is like, that's all I care about is like a real truth embedded into something, put well, like explained well, showed off well, a concept of something. Because when I watch a movie, like I'm looking for the deeper things, the deeper meanings.
Yeah.
What are they trying to tell us or show us?
Especially nowadays. It's super easy to pick up on too. If you're looking for it, like it's not hard to look for a deeper meaning. Like if you look at Truman Show, it's probably really hard to look for like a deeper meaning if you don't know what's happening. But like nowadays, it's so obvious that you're just like, just the phrasing, the words that they use, you're like, oh, okay. Like then then becomes comical because now you're just entertained by looking for other things that they're trying to sell you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I watched the Super Bowl too. I didn't really care. Yeah. I was curious because I've sort of been, I've known about how manipulative everything is and scripted and fake, that I sort of tuned out for many years and didn't really care. It's like, the last couple of Super Bowls I didn't watch. I said I'll see what happens. I'll get the updates. I wanted to watch this one. I wanted to see what they're putting on TV, like what they're force feeding these people, how they're trying to make things seem, what their hidden agenda is, any of that type of stuff. And I was disappointed actually because I was like, this is just boring.
Yeah, but it's almost like America's back. Like we were talking about earlier, it's almost like the Eagles killed it and won because they wanted to swing the narrative from the Chiefs, right? They wanted to inspire people that, oh, the Chiefs didn't win. Like,
Also,
and like,
crime rate in Philly. Did you see anything about that?
No.
Oh, people are just saying either way, whether they win or lose, like the crime rate in Philly is about to go up tonight.
Yeah,
like,
that they just
I'm sure
blow everything up. Yeah.
Oh, it's just rough down there. It's getting bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, the inventor of Netflix, I guess if that's an invention, his uncle was the founder of propaganda. Like all propaganda. Like in the concept of propaganda.
Like the communists, like Cold War?
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'll just try to look it up here and see exactly what it is. But yeah.
Because I feel like propaganda started back in World War I, but especially World War II, right? Like with the Nazis talking about like the Jews and everything like that. Like I think that was the basis of propaganda, but then it got really big in the Cold War, especially, I mean, yeah, basically labeling everybody as a communist or whatever it was. I think that's like really where we saw it first, or our United States saw it. But that's interesting that he's like the creator. Maybe he was like an illustrator, or maybe he was like on the team that like created the propaganda.
Yeah, I'm trying to see.
Netflix was huge though. Like they used to ship out CDs and stuff to people's houses. Like very interesting. Redbox too. I thought Redbox was gonna be a lot bigger, but I mean everything went digital.
What is this right here? So this dude Edward Bernays is the uncle of the creator of Netflix. Let's see what it says about Edward Bernays. Okay, so he was born in 1891. He died in 1995. He was an American pioneer in the field of public relations and propaganda, and referred in his obituary as the father of public relations. I guess that's a title, whatever. But he was credited with the advancing public relations techniques. Sorry, I'm trying to get to it.
No, you're good. Public relations is propaganda.
Yeah. What did he do, though? His best-known campaigns include a 1929 effort to promote female smoking by branding cigarettes as feminists and like all that. So yeah, basically that's probably the dude that Rockefeller said, "Hey, you're gonna make some movies and commercials for me," and he just did it. But I think he wrote a book basically explaining the ideas of propaganda and like the method. It's like a warfare tactic essentially.
Yeah,
straight up. So
yeah, it's just, I mean, a lot of the USAID stuff too is just a giant propaganda machine, and just trying to gain, the CIA is trying to gain control of all the other countries and stuff, and funneling money and giving them stuff so that way they can get control, but they're doing it, you know, whilst trying to blend it in with what we're pushing in the United States. So it's, yeah, I mean, it's all just a CIA op at the end of the day.
I just think it's interesting that like Netflix, you know, that's that dude's uncle, and then all the stuff that's on Netflix now, because we were talking about how things are different on Netflix than when it first came out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It just seems like whether it
was like Blockbuster. Like you could have every movie. Like,
but like the, you know, that Bird Box movie and what was it, like Squid Games, Black Mirror. Like there's all these things that are super psyop-y, and it's like nobody was thinking about any of these sort of things or talking about any of those sort of concepts until Netflix was like giving us that. Nobody like, especially Squid Games. Now that's like people think about anything being like that, and it's all. Did you watch that?
No.
Oh.
I did not care. Yeah. I got rid of Netflix, dude.
Fair enough.
Whenever they started dropping all that woke crap, I was like, yeah, I don't really want you to have my money anymore. Especially because there was like the pack. I was like getting I forget where I had it from or had it through, but there was a package where I had like Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus.
Oh yeah.
And then I started realizing like, wait a minute.
Was it Amazon did that all together?
I forget. It was something.
I remember that being packaged up there.
Yeah, it was some sort of package like that. But I remember getting all of it, and then eventually I was like, wait, I'm just, let alone giving my money to them. It's like, this is all tailored to stuff I don't want to like look at.
I'm paying to be bought with ideas here under the guise of entertainment.
Yeah.
I don't know. I always liked, I never quite liked like whatever was popular and everybody was tuned into. Like that's why I'm watching Game of Thrones now. Because I like things that are like, I don't know. I'll even go watch old movies now and just love that, because it's like, I don't know, revisit like when everything is current. It's like if you watched a movie about somebody in our current year doing current year things, that's so boring. I don't care. Unless there's some ultimate plot to do something, it's not interesting. But if you show me pretty much any perspective from like the 70s, there's intrigue because the difference in things, how things were portrayed, like there's so much more value there to me. But yeah, I don't know. Just like popular stuff is kind of meh anyway for the most part.
It also makes you realize the actors are bought and paid for, because like the characters that they play in these movies, I'm like, it's almost like watching a politician talk about something and they change their mind 20 years later. It's like you have this guy who's playing this character like Captain America, right? When Captain America came out, and he was like this super pro-America, you know, God-fearing guy, and literally like that was his character. And now he comes out and he's like the whole woke thing comes in 2020 to 2023, and it's literally just like shitting on all of it. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, that was actually wild because the first one was like almost army propaganda to a degree. It seemed like.
But like nothing was. When did that come out? 2011.
That sounds about right.
Well, I mean, ISIS wasn't happening.
Maybe 13.
Osama bin Laden, I guess, was during that time because Obama blew that guy up.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember what was around there because it wasn't Iraq. So I mean, it could be military propaganda, but like,
well, I just think like because all right, I would say the biggest pieces of military propaganda since like basically the early 2000s was Iron Man.
Yeah.
And then Captain America would be the next. And I don't think there's been there's been a couple here or there, like some Tom Cruise movies or whatever, but that one where he like it's Groundhog's Day, but he's at war.
Day after
no. I think so. Or no.
No, it's
you know what I'm talking about though.
Yeah.
Everybody has seen that movie.
It was a great movie.
Yeah, it was a good movie, but like I don't know. Sometimes I think there's just certain things where it's like clearly it's a motivation for, and it might have not even been for a military conflict we were in. It's just like our numbers are low because we're not in a conflict. We need to boost these numbers for whatever money gains they can.
Probably the
into.
Bourne movies.
I know that.
There's another one I'm thinking of.
I'm thinking of Shooter with Mark Wahlberg.
That's what it was. Shooter. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good movie. Yeah, there's a lot of. I loved that era. Like, I actually would love to rewatch the Bourne Identity or just the Bourne movies, I guess.
The last one's terrible.
Yeah, but that came out years later, right? Like,
no, it did. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like they ruined it.
I didn't even see that one.
They need to stop ruining movies. Just leave them alone. Like, they ruined Star Wars. They've ruined, like, they're trying to do more Lord of the Rings stuff. They ruined Harry Potter. Like,
leave Lord of the Rings alone, dude.
Yeah,
we're good. Yeah. It's in a good spot.
But it's because they're not creative. Like, they don't have any more creative people. Like, you see the same thing with video games, right? Like, they were super creative and now they're all just meh. And it's because no one's willing to write a story and take time. They're all just, let's just do the same thing. Let's just rewrite something because it's easy.
I forget how many things are like copied straight from Doom or not. Well, Doom too, but I meant Dune.
Dune, yeah.
Like so many things. Like supposedly, because the book of Dune is much. I don't know what it's from, but before Star Wars was a thing, and supposedly Star Wars and like a million other things are just sort of, if you change the details, the story is exactly the same, and that's like kind of what we do. Like we get attached to these worlds because somebody's telling a good story. And then we go, okay, let's remove all that, the details of that, and then fill it in. It's like, what's that game that add Mad Libs, or you just fill in the blanks and it's like a stupid little story. Yeah. That's what Hollywood has turned into, and it's like you see through it so clearly. It's crazy. Like, I'm sure the original Mad Maxes were probably good, and people will say these recent ones were. I wasn't gonna go watch these.
Yeah,
I had zero interest.
I mean, they did it with Spider-Man. Like, I don't know.
What's a cool detail about that Spider-Man thing? Actually, two things. This first one's not the cool detail.
Okay.
But supposedly in, like, was that Spider-Man 3 when what's the actor?
Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, Tobey Maguire. When he turns evil, sort of, right? Like, he's got all the venom stuff. He turns evil and he's like in his badass form. He's doing
like
the
cringe,
snapping, dancing thing, all that. I suppose when he's at dinner and he's like just really turned evil, he answers the phone and he goes, "Shalom." And people were talking shit about that. And I just thought that was funny. That was not the cool detail. The cool detail was about when they're sitting at dinner. So the dude that plays I'm blanking on everybody's name. The Green Goblin. Willem Dafoe.
Okay.
So he's wearing a red tie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He's wearing a red tie. Peter Parker is wearing a green tie. And then the son is wearing, I don't know, the Green Goblin's son is wearing a tie that represents both of them. But just like little details like that sort of, that's just somebody showing you the intentions of the movie, like foreshadowing basically. But little details like that are so mind blowing to me sometimes because like I think they'll just put them in movies to make you pay attention to something, you know. And I don't know.
Yeah.
Just sometimes stuff's crazy when you look at details.
Some movies, I mean, are really thought out and really good, like Shutter Island, Inception, like very.
I love Interstellar.
Yeah, I mean, very well thought out, like, but nowadays it's just they try to make a movie that's like intense fighting, but it's just bad. It's bad acting, bad writing. It's like you would have saved more money if you just got a better script, like, and make, because the whole point is to make money.
Yeah.
But they just feel like, well, we can just break even or make a little bit of money, you know, just doing. But I think at the end of the day, it's also like, it's for the actors, like, because the actors always need a movie. That's how they make money, right? So they always need to be in something. So I think a lot of them would rather just play a bad role or a terrible role. Like,
it's all Kevin Hart's fault.
No, it's The Rock's fault.
Well, yeah.
So I was about to say, The Rock, when he had that movie about the earthquakes or whatever, where he was like a firefighter or he was some sort of like worker, and there's like a building falling over. I remember this. Anyway, it was probably like 2018, 2017. Okay. But it's like movies like that. It's like, it's a terrible movie, but he needed money, right? He needed a script, so that somebody wrote some bad movie, and they said, well, let's put The Rock in it, and then it'll be relevant. So same thing happened with Kevin Hart. You know, he'll just be in some random movie or.
But you know what, they used to do that where they would go like, okay, the original Jumanji, they were like, okay, this will be a good movie, but nobody's gonna care.
Yeah.
Let's get somebody. Okay, Robin Williams, we'll throw him in there. But then Robin Williams did a good job, and we love that character. And it wasn't about like Robin Williams being the biggest name ever. It's about that's somebody that's big that works for this script. That's who it is. Now it's all about who's been in the most movies in the last 2 years. Yeah. Okay, people go to on paper that makes sense to somebody, right? So yeah, The Rock is probably offender number one.
Yeah, it's also weird to see like The Office. A lot of the main characters either went on and had movies or they went and did commercials. So a lot of the people that like weren't as important in The Office, they went and did commercials, and the people who were really important got like super big offers and stuff.
Yeah, I feel bad for like that Kevin guy or like
a lot of those people just didn't do anything.
But you know what? I think it was a huge turning point when like Ed Helms got The Hangover, and it was like, oh, anybody can actually just turn this around.
Yeah.
And then you know that Rainn Wilson guy, he's been in a lot of indie movies and
he's in Sahara.
Stuff.
It's a great movie. I
don't know if I saw that one or know what
it's
that one is.
It's with McConaughey, and they're in like the desert in Africa. They're looking for a Civil War ship.
I haven't seen it.
You should watch it. It's a great movie.
Probably should.
It's very much like a National Treasure-esque, but more violence and not Disney.
Right.
It's a good movie though.
Yeah, I like a lot of good movies like
Penelope Cruz is in it too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Dude, speaking of why are the first movies always the best? Or rarely, sometimes the second one's the best. But Pirates 1, phenomenal movie, dude. I wish so badly they would have stopped there.
Great movie. I didn't have a problem. Like the third one, in my opinion, was great CGI. Like they did a lot. Like they added a villain, but it was good because the CGI was there and it was before its time. Right? It was really good. But then after that, I didn't really care for it.
Yeah. It started to drag on.
Yeah. But you have like Avatar. Yeah. Insane first movie that they could have that they could have made it way longer at the beginning of the movie or whatever. But
I never saw the second one.
I heard it was not that good.
I heard people liked it.
Well, I mean,
I
think they liked it in the sense of like it was 4K, really good video quality, but I'm not sure if the storyline was like there. But there's a lot of good firsts.
That's another one of those movies that's like, it seems like when that came out, to half the people watching it, it was like just science fiction, a little story or whatever. And half the people were like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah. That seems to a degree plausible. And like, oh, like one, military industrial complex, invading other places, taking resources, doing whatever.
Yeah.
And then the whole technology of like transferring into another thing, like totally possible.
Yeah. Gladiator. They did it with Gladiator.
Yeah.
They just released, I heard the second one was terrible.
I heard the same thing. I asked somebody how it was. They don't.
Yeah.
All right.
But I mean, just if they would just leave it alone, but they can't because they were box office hits and they're just, oh, maybe we can generate some more money off of it.
I think the sequel to 300 wasn't as good.
They made a sequel?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I wouldn't watch that. The first one was perfect.
It was great.
Perfect. Yeah, it was fantastic. That's like making a Patriot 2.
Yeah,
or
awful
like
decision.
Braveheart 2. It's like, why would you do that? Like, anyway.
Yeah. I don't know. They'll make something I like eventually, though, I think.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully in the next 2 years.
Yeah, one of these days.
We want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I think that's a good place.
Sweet.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
See you guys next time.
Bye.